for Jonathan Taylor. There he goes again. 50, 40, down the far sideline. He might do it again. 10, 5, touchdown. I-N-D-Y.
Eastern Conference Championship has been captured by the Indiana Pacers.
Alex Pillow wins the 109th Indianapolis 500.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Friday. You've made it to the end of the week. That means football, high school football, Operation Football coming your way later on today. In fact, this hour, 7:30, Dominic Miranda from Channel 13 stops by. Good morning, Kevin Bowen. Good morning, James Boyd. Mark Dykton already wrestling with the equipment and the computers this morning. But you don't care, do you? You don't care about anything else today.
Well, me and diehard Cubs fan Kevin Bowen here. Our team is advanced.
I'm not seeing the Cubs shirt today,
Yeah,
Mark.
where's your Cubs t-shirt today?
As I said many times yesterday, simply support for a friend.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a friend in me, one of the more iconic songs out there, I would say. We sing it a lot in the Bowen household. That's what I was doing. Mark, congrats.
Thank you.
He's been rehearsing that for 14
I'll say, Mark, you
hours.
can still punch him.
I know. I feel like I should check his palms. He probably had it written down.
He's got his fingers twisted behind his back.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so the Cubs advance to the next round of the Major League Baseball playoffs. They win their wild card series 2-1. They beat the Padres yesterday. Detroit, despite the collapse in all of September, comes back to beat the Cleveland Indians in 3 games, and the Yankees shut out the Red Sox, which is extra special for all you Yankees fans out there. But we're getting ready for another Colts game. They're off to a 3-1 start, James Boyd. And for those who are watching us this morning, we do have some visitors today. So when you tune us in on YouTube, you're going to see all kinds of activity because, quite frankly, I figure, maybe 6 weeks away from getting your star on the Walk of Fame.
Yeah, I always think, who will play me in a movie? I think I'll play myself, So we have a film crew here today. They're doing a documentary on the Colts and the international game that's coming up in Berlin next month. And so they're going to be like a fly on the wall here today and a couple other times, I guess, throughout my, coverage of the Colts. And so pay it no mind.
Global star, to be clear.
I guess so.
That's
I've
right.
only been overseas once.
Mark
but,
and I just hard knocks back in the day. Mark got a pedicure last night in case they need his hands.
I did warn the guys, make sure you get the crust out of your eye this morning. But
update the IMDb page while you're at it.
There you go.
Mark's watching the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th innings of the Cubs game while he's getting that pedicure. Probably
His girls, I think, just did it, right?
Yeah,
the girls just did it.
That's
There
how
you
that
go.
works.
No need to go to the salon.
Yeah, and James Boyd, the only time we see you internationally, you're like 5-star dressed. And
I know.
Today it's normal T-shirt and jogging shorts.
Yeah,
So
I
we're
thought
good
about it. I was
to
like, man, I should probably just be myself, right? This is what I wear to normal radio shows and Colts coverage, and we certainly will be all over, the latest when it comes to this game. One of the bigger news items coming out of yesterday, you all, is Michael Pittman Jr. being listed as limited due to a hamstring injury in practice, and this is already being down one starter, and Kenny Moore II, who remains out with an Achilles injury. From what I understand, it's still kind of inflamed. They would want to just give that more time. So we probably figured he would not play this week, but the Pittman injury is one where you're thinking, man, hamstrings are tricky, man. You don't want to play any games with that.
Yeah, and James, we should point out, not only are we watching that here in Indy, but I think they're watching a couple out in Vegas as well.
Absolutely.
Brock Bowers missed practice yesterday. For those that have not followed the Raiders this season, Bowers got hurt early in the year, has worn a brace on that knee, and just hasn't been Bowers, hasn't been rookie Bowers. So he did practice Wednesday, didn't yesterday. So again, something to monitor with him. And Max Crosby popped up on the injury report yesterday. And I know some people, in our Colts world, like, oh, yeah, veteran guys, that Grover Stewart, for example, took the day off yesterday. DeForest Buckner is a rest guy. Max Crosby don't take days off.
No.
Max Crosby is out there. This is the first time he's on the injury report all year, just to put it into perspective. And, Mark, I know your Bears felt the brunt of Max Crosby firsthand, but also I watched the end of that game. He was certainly feeling it a little bit. I mean, he gutted through that. So, yes, the Michael Pittman Jr. thing and, the domino of, okay, what would that mean for maybe A.D. Mitchell for this week is a storyline here this Friday, but also out in Vegas. There's not many stars on that football team, but those are definitely a couple of them. So, yeah, a little bit of a newsier Friday than maybe we're used to.
And crazy, when it comes to injuries this type of year, they start popping up for everybody. And here on the Fantasy League in the morning, we all know about that. But look at the San Francisco 49ers last night. They're on the road, short rest. They're playing against a Rams team that just lit it up against us in the passing department. They don't have George Kittle. They don't have Brandon Ayuk. They don't have Juwan Jennings. They don't have George Kittle. And they come up with a win on the road.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan can coach football. Can he not?
Man, oh, man.
That was a wild game. That was worth it, Mark, to stay up. I know you were disappointed with the tie the other night. It almost looked like you were going to get another one last night, but that was well worth it. And Sean McVay's onions.
I was going to say, hat tip to Sean McVay for going
I was like, do you respect
Fourth
it?
down.
When it doesn't work, do you still respect it?
I did.
Can you be expired? I'm trying to think, what are onions that are like stale? Are there such thing as stale onions? Onions that maybe don't make you cry?
I think they may have been chopped up and thrown away last night. Is what
Clearance
happened.
onions.
Yeah.
They're like 80% off because they expired the next day.
And they left them in tiers, too.
For those that missed it, Bears legend Eddie Pinheiro bangs one in from 59 in regulation. Rams kicker Josh Carty makes one to force overtime. You get into overtime. Again, 2 possessions. Doink off the left upright for Pinheiro. They take the lead. Rams drive down. They play for the win. They don't play for the tie. 4th and 1 after a couple of timeouts each way. Kyron Williams absolutely stuffed on 4th and 1. The 49ers celebrate, and the NFL world probably celebrates because it's not a tie.
Well, how about him dropping it right in the
fumble as well.
a yard away? Oh,
that
my
hurts.
God.
That hurt them. No question about that. You talk about Eddie
Second time
Pinheiro.
it's happened, by the way, in the last 2 weeks. 1-yard fumble.
Pinheiro bangs that one in, just skirts in off the left upright, but from 59, and that had room to spare. I was reading an article the other day. They were polling anonymous general managers and people like that. They were saying with the kicker balls now, at some point a guy like Brandon Aubrey is going to bang a 70-yarder in. Like the distance is just 5 to 8 to 10 yards more with these kicking balls than it is just the regular football that the quarterbacks like to use.
Yeah, I guess to expand on that a little bit further, McAfee shared this. It's not that they're using kicker balls. They've had those K balls. It's the fact that, and boy, this is going to, I'm sure, go global. I'm really glad the cameras are in here for it. They are allowed to prepare the balls.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Mark, clip that out. You can bump that maybe to the top.
Already marked it
of the audio there.
I have never seen his hands move so fast.
Oh my goodness!
To mark that. That was crazy.
Camera crew.
That was your Mike Wells moment right there.
Camera crew's going to exit stage right, but I just wanted to add proper detail. Jeff was kind of leaving us a little bit, there. But yes, in all seriousness, I think we're used to this with Peyton Manning. It's well documented over his career. One of the things that he would do, and quarterbacks do this, is they get with the equipment staff late in the week, and hey, I want that one, I want that one, I want that one. Like you are picking out the footballs you want to throw. Well, now they're allowing that with kickers, and again, to football people like anyone out there, maybe it doesn't resonate, but according to McAfee, he's like, this is a huge deal, and we will see kicks that are longer this season. And I mean, James, some of those kicks Spencer Schrader made in L.A., I know he didn't attempt them necessarily from 60, 65, but they look like they were going to be good from 70. So, yeah, Aubrey for sure, but I'm curious if we get other guys. And Pinheiro, I don't think we've ever viewed him as Matt Prater's son, and yet he hit that last night from 59.
Yeah, I went down a rabbit hole with Spencer Schrader yesterday, actually, in the locker room because I went around just asking guys. Sometimes I try to come up with different questions or random questions to kind of get them going. Like, for example, I walked in yesterday because we were debating who's the best basketball player on the team, not named Mo Ali Cox, who played at VCU. And so I walked in and played JT Tuimoloau's highlights for him from basketball, his AAU days. He played with Paolo Banchero, by the way, #1 pick for the Orlando Magic. And so he's sitting there at his locker, Jeff, and it's funny because he's not expecting this at all. And so I go over and I was like, who's this guy? And it's young JT playing basketball. And he's like, oh, I remember this. He goes down memory lane. And then I start going and asking him and other players, what's the hardest thing about your position that the general public would not understand? And when I got to Spencer Schrader, oh my gosh, him and Luke Rhodes and Rigo Sanchez, when it comes to punting, they went down this rabbit hole that I just could not get out of. I was like, this is the most complicated thing ever, but it looks so simple. Like they were talking about rotations per second and how laces have to be in their distance, on certain things, and how, if it's 1.35 seconds on, the whole, I guess, operation, that's too late, for his normal routine, which is between 1.25 and 1.28, and it throws everything off if they're too late or too early. And he explained why he missed the initial 60-yarder against the Broncos, and I'm like, what language are we speaking? And so that was very fascinating. So yes, I do think that, as these teams and kickers become more, I guess, just technicians is how I would describe it, how Spencer Schrader described it, we'll see more of, what used to be, 50-yard kicks used to be huge deals, and now it's, if you miss a 50-yarder, everyone's like, who's this scrub?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You lose your job, you miss a bunch of 50
I know.
yarders.
Yeah, we
It's
saw it
over
last
with.
year with Matt Gay.
Yeah. So a lot to talk about today. Friday, Operation Football. Dom Miranda going to join us in about 20 minutes from now. Of course, Greg Rakestraw will come up to preview everything in the world of sports. Is there anything he can't talk about?
No, not
Anything.
at all. Not when it comes to the state of Indiana, no.
Man, and we'll get some of that. And then, of course, Matt Taylor, the voice of the Indianapolis Colts, stops by top of the hour at 9 o'clock. We got a lot to do, a check down to come, and some information and news on the Fever, saying a few interesting things and adding on to the let's figure out a way to improve the leadership in the WNBA yesterday. So we'll get to all of that. It's a busy morning. It is Friday. It is 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
They are allowed to prepare the balls.
Yeah.
Down on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Operation Football underway. It is a Football Friday, and we're just a couple of days away from the Indianapolis Colts hosting the Las Vegas Raiders. That one starts at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Pregame on the drive to kickoff with JMV, 9 o'clock. And then, of course, all the pregame festivities with Matt Taylor. He will join us at 9. But let's start with the injury report, and specifically, got to get healthy in the secondary with the retirement of Xavier Howard and the recent injury to Kenny Moore II. What do we know, James Boyd?
Yeah, so, again, just a wild week for that room, I would say. Certainly starting with Xavier Howard retiring sort of on the spot here earlier this week. And then Kenny Moore II did not practice for a second straight day as he deals with that Achilles injury. And from what I understand, he's still feeling that to a degree. And, of course, around here, you don't want to get too, antsy with, the calf injuries that, that might be Achilles injuries, because we saw what happened with Tyrese Halliburton. So that's a big deal, and certainly something you want to keep an eye on. So in his replacement, I would think that the Colts want to lean more towards perhaps Mike Hilton starting in the slot, and then, perhaps you can hopefully get Kenny Moore II back pretty soon here in a couple of weeks. They still haven't said they're going to put him on injured reserve, so that is a good thing for him, but sit him down one more week, assess situation afterwards. And then on the flip side, without Xavier Howard, how does that rest of that cornerback room look? Do you lean more towards Mekhi Blackman, the third-year player, who was a third-round pick a few years ago, or do you lean towards the undrafted rookie and Jonathan Edwards, who said he is ready to play more, which I think, Jeff, any player would say in that situation.
And KB, in the offseason, bolstering that secondary with Bynum and Ward coming over, knowing that you're going to have Kenny Moore there, everything was looking good for the Colts, barring injury. And here we are. Kenny Moore is struggling to get back on the field right now. We need him.
Well, I'll go back to what we talked about last week when Kenny first got hurt, allowing, 33 points per game in the last 3 years when Kenny has not been playing. Last week they allowed 27. So I get the Rams are the Rams, and they have a great passing offense, but still, when Kenny Moore is not in the lineup, clearly he's one of the more indispensable Colts. So it's going to be a busy Friday. And Michael Pittman Jr. limited yesterday at the hamstring. It's never something you want to see. Tyquan Lewis also had a limited designation on him. And then again, out in Vegas, Brock Bowers did not practice, and neither did Max Crosby. It is very rare for Max Crosby to be on the injury report with anything, let alone not practicing. So week 5, we could have some Friday injury news.
All right, last night, week 5 starts in the National Football League, the Thursday night game in Los Angeles. The Niners, you want to talk about injury-riddled. They beat the Rams 26-23 on the road. The Rams going for it with a little over 3 minutes to go in overtime. They could have tied the game up with a field goal. Instead, they go at 4th and 1, and they get shut down, JB.
Yeah, Sean McVay after the game was really kicking himself for it and very upset that he felt like he didn't put his team in the best position to succeed on that play. But overall, a great game, I thought, for viewing purposes. I know if you're a Rams fan, you're probably a little sick this morning. But when it comes to the 49ers, man, hats off to that crew, Kyle Shanahan, figuring out ways to win. And Mac Jones played good enough for them to win, and he certainly felt like, he earned that win. Some of the stuff we saw from him, just laying on the ground, fiddling with the brace for his PCL sprain, all those things. And I got a kick out of him wearing the Harvey Dent-like suit afterwards. The two-tone, one side's red, one side's black.
Saw that
after the game. And so respect to those guys.
Kevin Bowen, I think you could pull that Mac Jones look off.
Boy, I cannot. Hell, yesterday I got ridiculed for the wardrobe that I had in this studio, which was really disappointing to see.
That's not the same at all.
All right, week 6 in college football. 8th-ranked Indiana has the week off.
Was that not the perfect lead-in there for baseball? I thought we were setting up to Mark Dykton.
We'll get there to Mark Dykton, but there are people who want to hear about their football team. How good can Purdue be this year? They are going to get a test at Ross-Ade tomorrow, noon kickoff against 22nd-ranked Illinois. The fighting James Boyd's going to go into West Lafayette and do some damage, or what?
Yeah, I don't know if I should talk as much trash as I did last time because, a week ago at this time, I was wearing candy striped pants. Jeff, I don't know what the equivalent of that will be for the Boilermakers, but I'll just say I'm picking my Illini, Illinois, but I'll save, some of the trash talk.
We saw Matt
Or
Conti.
so you thought. We're going to go down there to Ross-Ade
right,
and whoop them, okay? I got to get a win here, against one of these schools in Indiana here pretty soon, so I'm looking forward to that matchup.
Get your WWE on.
I know. I was channeling my inner Mark Dykton right there.
You guys were out at Colts camp yesterday, and because of a lost bet, Penn State and Oregon beating Penn State, Director of Communications Matt Conti, who's one of the best people in the entire world, had a bet with DeForest Buckner, Oregon guy. Conti, a Penn State guy. He had to show up dressed as the Oregon Duck yesterday.
Yes, Puddles, correct? That
Yes,
is the Oregon
that
Duck
is the
mascot.
Oregon Duck.
He pulled it off tremendously well. Excellent work by Matt Conti. And Tyler Warren's the one that got off the hook. All he had to do was rock a hat and a T-shirt.
I don't agree with this.
I
don't
know.
like this.
You're going to be Pete. You're going to be Purdue Pete pretty soon.
I
That's
know.
the point.
hazing that we're hesitant about here. Taekwon Lewis last year wore the
Exactly.
Puddles costume. So, somehow Tyler Warren got. I guess when you're that good at football, you probably can get away with those
Tyler's
things.
like, I'm making history right now. The most receiving yards by a tight end through their first 4 games in NFL history.
And speaking of your team, Kevin Bowen, Notre Dame at home this week against Boise State. And Boise State was a tough team last year, I know that, but now Ashton Genty is going to be playing against the Colts on Sunday afternoon. What are you worried about, my friend?
Boy, I love that we are making Mark wait even further to talk.
Are you seeing the strategy here?
We've talked Purdue football and Boise State football before we've talked about the MLB games yesterday. This
I ain't gonna
is
lie, that's pretty savvy by Jeff right
excellent
there.
here by Jeff Rickard.
I would never troll anyone like that. I don't know what you're talking about.
The biggest underdog in Boise State football history has me a little uneasy for tomorrow. So I believe a 3-touchdown favorite. The Irish, as they will rock the green jerseys.
All right, let's get to baseball, Mark Dykton. Are you ready here?
Yes, I'm ready.
Well, I can tell you that last night the Yankees shut out the
White
Red Sox
fan James
by a score
Boyd
of 4-0.
dancing to this music over here. That is sickening.
Not as sick as
I
what
was gonna
happening
say,
yesterday.
calling me a White Sox fan is very loose, honestly. I feel like I am one by default because that's just where I spent most of my childhood, but I can't name you any other games that I've really watched since the 05 World Series. So,
all right, as I was saying, the Yankees shut out the Red Sox 4-0 last night, and I'd never seen this particular young man pitch before. He's only been a major leaguer for 85 days, and I got to be careful with this. I know Mark is waiting to pounce. Cam Schlittler, 8 innings, 12 strikeouts, no walks. That is the first time that ESPN research could find in the history of Major League Baseball that a pitcher has 8 innings of shutout baseball, more than 12 walks, and 0 base on balls after the game. Brett Boone says a star has been born. How about that in the postseason?
Brett Boone?
Brett Boone, yes.
Or Aaron Boone.
The manager of the Yankees. Thank you very much.
Aaron Boone.
Thank you. I'm still going back to Red Sox-Yankees days gone by.
I love
all
watching
good.
Brett Boone play. Every time Reese Davis said his name, I got nervous. I was like, is he going to say that? Is that correct there? Epic. Absolutely epic performance. Obviously in the game ones, we saw a lot of this throughout the wild card series, but to do that in a advancing game, absolutely special performance. Mark, congrats.
All right. Also in the American League, the Tigers over the Indians by a score of 6-3. So after that epic collapse after leading by 12.5 games with less than a month and a half to go, they had to make it as a wild card, and now they're on to the divisional series. So congratulations to Tigers fans. And Mark, what happened in the other afternoon game yesterday?
Cubs took care of business. They kind of held San Diego at bay. Dansby Swanson was the defensive machine. He just had some unbelievable stops. So he kept them in the game, and then a go-ahead, or not a go-ahead homer, but a nice insurance home run near the end, and the Padres were cooked. Cubs win. Bring on the Brewers.
I feel like Dansby Swanson should be like a Mark Twain character name.
Yeah.
It got a little dicey in the ninth inning. I was feeling for you.
It was.
Looked like the Padres were going to get something going. They scored a run, put a bunch of guys on base after being, 2 hit by pitches, I think, to get the bases loaded, and then they got out of it. So
I'm not going to lie. The last out, when that guy hit it, I legit thought it was like, oh, my God, that's a 3-run homer. And then PCA was just standing under it, and he caught it. It's like, whew.
All right.
That was scary.
It was definitely scary.
Support from your friends helping you get to that 27th out.
Thank you so much. By the way, I sent a picture of you to Matt Taylor. Disgusted. He was disgusted as a current Reds fan.
Rightfully so. That's like me dancing to, Go Cubs Go. What are you doing, Kevin?
I was being a friend. You simply were dancing to your arch enemy.
There you go. Operation Football is here. It is Friday. Dominic Miranda, where in the world is he this morning with his Channel 13 crew? We'll find out next on the Fan Morning Show, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Is this it? Is this one of them, Mark?
This is it.
This is it.
This is one of them.
I like it. It's the Fan Morning Show.
Taylor Swift's new
made it
album
all the way to
for
Friday. I
those
like that. That's
unfamiliar.
right. I did not know that. Today's the day Taylor Swift drops the album, right?
Today is the day.
Wow.
National holiday.
Big day for Travis Kelce.
Look at Mark Dykton right there all over it.
Man,
Can you imagine our listenership today?
Yeah. It's
all the Swifties.
93.5, 107.5 The Fan. We are in the midst of a football season. It is Football Friday, and that means Operation Football. Channel 13's Dominic Miranda stops by on the Payless Liquors hotline right now. Good morning, Dominic Miranda. Were you jamming out to Taylor Swift all the way to your appearance this morning for Operation Football?
I was on pins and needles. Couldn't sleep last night, honestly, because of it.
You never sleep. I don't know what that means. Where in the world are you this morning?
Hey, we're in Flora. Can you believe that? About an hour 15 from downtown Indianapolis here at Carroll High School, home of the 1A Cougars. Getting some 1A love here this morning. There's a beautiful sunrise over the cornfields. You know, there's more pigs than people in this place, is what I was just told.
I need Mark to
before
clip
I came
that.
on it. So, that's a lot of fun. What'd you say?
I said I need Mark to clip that, what you just said. More pigs than people. That is
More
certainly a
pigs than
line
people.
I didn't expect to hear this morning.
Yeah, they have a bacon bowl when they play someone over here. It's pretty crazy. But, hey, I had a lot of fun this morning, and it feels like fall. Just, oh, man, it never gets old. I love it.
So let's start there. You know, I know usually the 1A schools will represent when it comes to having success or having something like you had today with Operation Football. So what is the atmosphere like at Carroll in Flora, and, you know, how much did the community embrace you?
They are the first school since I've been doing this 3 years now that brought almost as many parents as students. They had the entire home stands full for our 7 o'clock hit of the band, the cheerleaders, the students, the football team, and parents. It was awesome. I've never experienced something like that. And so I wanted to keep showing them on TV just as much as the kids, because they had cowbells, they had signs, they were wanting T-shirts. They were just as fired up as the kids were. So that's why I love going to the small communities for the morning stuff that we do, because they really embrace it. They have no issue getting up at, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., getting out and just being loud and having fun. And we get to showcase schools that otherwise wouldn't be. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been to Flora for Carroll High School since I've been here. So to do that, to showcase them, they're very appreciative, and they were fired up. And, pretty successful football-wise. In the last 5 years, they're 45-10, okay? And they've won sectional titles 3 of the last 4 years. So this isn't any slouch either on the football field as far as 1A goes. So pumped up to be with the Cougars this morning. And, great turnout for sure.
Did you say Bacon Bowl?
The Bacon Bowl. I believe that's what I was just told as I was rushing to my car to get on here.
I'd love more on that, to be honest with you. So if you
Same,
can provide that crisp, I'm a little more of a crispy bacon, if I must say. But
I remember the Kevin Bowen burger.
Correct, the Kevin Bowen bacon burger. Yes, thank you, James Boyd, for that. Dominic Miranda, WTHR Operation Football, with us here. I'm picturing like a Grissom Air Force Base flyover here in Flora. All right, we're inching closer to tournament time. We're inching closer to pairing show time as well. What other games should we be watching for here in Week 7, Dom?
All right, I'm really excited for this one, and we have not. Center Grove plays such an interesting schedule. They're out of the state a lot, and we haven't been able to get to them. I don't think we've covered them twice, which is abnormal. But Cathedral visits Center Grove, and I'm extremely excited for that one. Our Eli Gain was talking to Eric Moore the other day. He said he's fired up. I don't know. Center Grove, every time I go there, it always just gives me kind of like a college feel. I know there's a lot of Center Grove faithful who listen and everything, and they take their football seriously. Very excited for that matchup. Center Grove ranked, what was it, 2nd in 6A, and Cathedral 3rd in 5A. They're coming off a subpar year by their standards, 8-5. It still went to semi-state last year, so very excited for that. Other than that, though, Westfield and Avon play. Westfield really impressed me last week against Brownsburg. 14-10 was the final there. To hold that offense to just 14 points, 7 of which in the second half, impressive. 7 both halves. I mean, that's a really – I was it almost feels like they deserve to win that game. But Brownsburg, that's why they're ranked 1. They found a way. Carmel visits Ben Davis. Excited for that one. Lawrence Central, North Central, Franklin at Plainfield, Franklin Central at Fishers. It's a good slate tonight. 11 games we're going to have for you at 11 p.m. Little 11-11 special there. It's October. I can't believe it. But regular season's dwindling down. A lot of good action, a lot of separating the boys from the men here. So excited for it.
Yeah, and obviously you talked about that Cathedral Center Grove game just a year ago. That was a fantastic game. I think both teams were just lighting up the scoreboard that night.
They seemingly always play epic games.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Center Grove is like crazy with the college talent, especially in the trenches. Couple O linemen going to IU and Ball State. Their name's escaping me, but Dominic Berry, spelled with a K, not a C, a K. Dominic Berry, tight end, going to Wake Forest. Kobe Cherry going to Purdue, D lineman, for all those guys for Center Grove. So they have a plethora of college talent, dominate the trenches. They've been kind of cruising this year. I'm just excited to watch them play, because I know I've been huffing up Brownsburg and Carmel a lot on this show, but I think Center Grove has something to say about it, and I'm just really excited to get some eyes on them here tonight.
So I do want to pivot back, if you will, kind of walk back with me in memory a little bit. Dominic Miranda, again, joining us here on the Pale Slickers Hotline. He's doing Operation Football with WTHR in our partnership. But Dominic, I believe when I landed from L.A.
Oh, yeah.
at the Indianapolis International Airport, I was walking through and I saw you on your way to Vegas for Game 5 of the Fever and the Aces. And so we saw how that season ended. But being there in person, what can you tell us about just how that team rallied to, try to extend their season and what it means, obviously, to, end in a fashion where it felt like they gave everything?
I forgot. It was so many days and time zones ago. I forgot that we saw you. And that was – talk about a day maker, by the way. Yeah, it was – I'm so happy we were there in person to witness this, because I still, a couple days later, can't – it feels like saying this team is resilient is just way underselling it. What an environment there at the Michelob Ultra Center. It was like a rave. I don't know if they have their decibels of their PA system louder than just everywhere else I've been, but my ears were like speedway levels of bleeding. And I don't know. It was just, there was dancers the whole time beside us on the floor level, and it was just like a rave. Credit to Vegas, though. I mean, Aja Wilson and Jackie Young. Jackie Young is the truth now, okay? She's unbelievable and just made big shot after big shot. Chelsea Gray in the overtime period. But this team is every time it's like there's no way they can do this. There's no way they can extend this series. There's no way they can get to the WNBA finals with, Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark, and that's just the tip of the iceberg as far as season-ending injuries go, are out. And once, Kelsey Mitchell, we didn't know the severity of the situation when she went down. It gave some eerily similar, Tyrese Halliburton vibes. We're like, oh my gosh, great. They're not even get a chance here. Go down as many as 9 and just keep scrapping and clawing. Odyssey Sims made herself some money. Let me tell you that. What a baller she is. Leah Boston was pounding people in the post. I don't know. Again, resiliency just doesn't feel like strong enough word. Lexi Hull beat up this postseason. She played 43 minutes. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Talking to them after the game, Stephanie White was just so proud of this team. Aaliyah Boston says, we're going to be back. Don't you worry. We're going to be back. It just makes us want more. We got a taste of it. And I should certainly say that, they are going to be back. And if this is what they can do with so many of their top-tier players out, then I don't even want to know what this team is capable of with a healthy team all season. And they deserve all the luck in the world after the hand they've been dealt this season. So it was a pleasure to cover this team, to watch this team go out that way. Nothing to hang their head about, and I think they have the best head coach in the WNBA also. Now, if this season starts on time and we have a league next year, we'll see. That's a story for a different day. But
yeah.
really
Dominic
impressive
Miranda,
stuff.
One more time. It'll be coming up later on tonight. I know you're going to be at 11 different venues for high school football, Operation Football. Give us the rundown very quickly.
Okay, yeah, game of the week, Cathedral, Center Grove. That's all you really need to know. That's the tip of the iceberg, 11 games. Cubs are going to the NLDS and will beat Joel Erickson's Brewers. You can book that. Very excited about that. Go Cubs, go. And, always a pleasure as always, boys. Have a great Friday.
All right, get some sleep and get ready to roll tonight for Operation Football. And speaking of football, That's the Fan Morning Show, and we got Colts-Raiders coming up on Sunday afternoon, and it feels like we've been having this success for a couple of weeks now, James Boyd, but it really is about who's going to be healthy and who's not going to be healthy for the Colts, especially in that secondary after the retirement of Xavier Howard, which maybe doesn't hurt all that much the way things have been going, but what are we looking at?
Yeah, it certainly is a new wrinkle for that group, and I do wonder, just how that conversation was going before he retired. Like, had they broached the topic with him, like, hey, we're going to bench you this week or we're going to put you in a reserve role, and he was just like, you know what, as a former all-pro Pro Bowler, do I just, call it like I see it and kind of call my own number and say, I'm out of here? So that is interesting. Probably won't get the real answer to that, but on top of that, yeah. So without him, Kenny Moore II already being out, I know, Kevin, you kind of threw out the idea of, like, if he were healthy, would you put him outside in that cornerback room and start Mike Hilton in the slot? But again, Kenny not being there, I think you have to roll with Mike Hilton in the slot. And then for the outside spot, it's up for grabs. Is it Mekhi Blackmon or Jonathan Edwards? I know Mekhi Blackmon has played more in his career, just being an older player. He's got 4 starts to his name in his career, as opposed to Jonathan Edwards, who has none. But Jonathan Edwards, as you saw, Kevin, limited reps this past week. We got a PBU, which is more than what Xavier Howard could say in his time on the field. So we'll see how that all shakes out. And then the last thing on the injury front, and I think you made a very good point earlier in the show, Kevin, is if Michael Pittman Jr. is limited in any way, does that affect your punishment for A.D. Mitchell? Because when I asked Shane Steichen earlier this week, will he play this week, referring to A.D. Mitchell, he said, we'll see how the week goes. And the week is going, and in a way that is not, a good thing for the Colts when it comes to the health of the wide receivers.
Yeah, it kind of weirdly, I guess, we sit here on this Friday morning, and Alec Pierce is trending in a good direction, and now Michael Pittman Jr. has the question mark on him after not being on the injury report Wednesday and then popping up yesterday with a hamstring limited. He does not have hamstring history, just to be clear. I know hamstrings have popped up a lot for the Colts here in 2025, but Michael Pittman Jr. does not have that. And then again, out in Vegas, Max Crosby and Brock Bowers, 2 guys, especially Crosby, we're not used to him on the injury report at all. He did not practice yesterday, and then Bowers went from limited Wednesday to no practice Thursday. So, those are 2 obvious, huge storylines. Like, I think the Colts will take care of business, but, Raiders do have a few stars, and the key is not allowing those stars to be true stars. Like, Puka Nacua had a nice game last night. He didn't do what he did against the Colts. I think that's the ask if you are a Colts fan of your defense or of your offense and trying to block Crosby. It's, these are great talents, but in, Puka's case last night, what was it, 7 for 80 or something like that? Can you just kind of keep him to obviously a nice game, but not a historic game? And, Crosby has had those in his NFL career, and even Bowers in his short time. But it sounds like some real health questions, certainly for the Raiders here leading into Friday.
Yeah, you definitely don't want Jacoby Myers to come up with a 9-catch, 114-yard, 2-touchdown day over at Lucas Oil Stadium. There's no question about that. But as we talk about all this injury stuff and secondary and who's going to be available and retirements in the middle of the week and things like that, here we are, guys, going into the 5th week of the NFL. Do you know who we're not talking about at all? We're not talking about the quarterback, Daniel Jones, because he's just been doing his job.
Yeah, you know what? I was wondering where you were going with that. That is a good point you've made. And I still think even last week, which was his worst game of the season, it wasn't god-awful to me. The last interception, I thought he was pressing a bit, probably should have not been so aggressive in that moment. I thought he underthrew A.D. Mitchell on the first interception, so his first 2 turnovers of the year. But even then, I still thought he gave them enough from the passing game to win the game. And then looking at the first 3 weeks of the season, he was playing at a historic level, MVP level. So I do think that is an interesting development. And I was doing a little Raiders radio yesterday, for some of the Vegas stations. They were asking me, like, how shocked were you on a level of 1 to 10 with the way Daniel Jones has played so far this season? And I told him I'm at a 10, especially through the first 3 weeks. I did not think it would look this good. I thought it would be more game managing. Okay, he's going to dink and dunk, not turn the ball over, throw the occasional touchdown pass, and they'll be okay. But no, he's been one of their best players. And so I'm curious to see how he bounced back from his first game, not looking, to play at an elite level. But at the same time, I don't think anybody being realistic about this team is all too worried about Daniel Jones. You certainly don't want it to snowball, Kevin, and pile up. But, I mean, looking at last week, this wasn't a game where I just felt like there were some times last year with Anthony Richardson, I was like, man, like your lows were too low for the team to actually have a chance to win. It feels like even the baseline for Daniel Jones, with some of the mistakes included in that, and they're okay with that.
Yeah, is that the Daniel Jones floor? If that's the floor, sign yourself up.
Yeah, off and running.
Sign yourself up in Sharpie. One little storyline for Sunday: Patrick Graham, the Raiders defensive coordinator, was with the Giants for a couple of years. So Daniel Jones and him faced off in practice for about 2 years. Daniel said earlier this week. Different defense that Patrick Graham now has with the Raiders, but still just a little wrinkle of some guy has some history with Daniel Jones. So we'll see how all that plays out. Coming up, a touchdown favorite, again, the second biggest favorite in the Shane Steichen 39-game era as head football coach. The only time they're a bigger favorite.
Trying to think.
Drew Lock and the Giants.
We all know how that one went.
Oh, Lord, that was
narrator's voice. That didn't end well.
Yeah, that might be the worst loss of his tenure.
Yeah, I would argue there's no might about it. But so yes, that's what you're trying to avoid. Again, play to your standard. It's kind of like the week 3 stuff with the Titans. Play to your standard, not to your competition. 10 a.m. local time start for the Raiders. They don't have their left tackle. Latu should be feasting on that. And don't let Ashton Genty stay in the game. And by that I mean this: get up on them early. Take Genty out of the. You don't want Genty.
For a second
tackles.
there, Mark, I thought he was going like tables, ladders, and chairs there. I'm like, take him out of the game. Goodness gracious.
Right
I'm not saying Tanya Harding at the team hotel, but if you can get a lead, because Genty, for those that haven't been paying attention, he's breaking tackles like nobody's business right now in the NFL. Well, the Colts usually do that to other teams. Look at Jonathan Taylor in the fourth quarter. Look at Jonathan Taylor in the second halves. If you can get a lead, and again, take Genty out of the game, then maybe those third and fourth quarter opportunities for him, if he's wearing you down a little bit, it's not there for him.
Kevin's trying to do like a Goodfellas scene, like, hey, Genty, go into this empty room real quick. Just walk in here real quick. Nothing
Tiger Woods' 8-iron.
We're gonna make fashion. We're gonna get him to be a made man. Come on by the house at 3:00. It's all gonna be good.
What's all this plastic on the floor?
One more thing on Daniel Jones, and I'm looking at this stat right now, and this I think kind of encapsulates why the Colts wanted to roll with him over Anthony Richardson. He's completed 19 of his 25 intermediate passes, which in NFL Pro, which is like a stat for NFL records and things of that nature, the yard attempts for intermediate throws is 10 to 19 yards. He's 19 of 25 for 357 yards, the third most in the NFL. 76% completion rate on those types of throws. That's what Shane Steichen wanted when he made that change, Jeff, because they felt like their offense was not tenable and it wasn't feasible to have a high operating offense if we can't make the layups, and that's what he's doing, and which is why I think even with some of the mistakes last week, you feel pretty good about where the quarterback situation is.
Yeah, and I know it's only through 4 weeks. We're about just a little over a quarter of the way through the season. But I was looking at the NFL standings yesterday, and one of the things I always like to keep track of, especially as we get deeper and deeper into the season, is the plus-minus point differential, because that usually tells a tale. The Colts are one of the best teams in the league right now. They're plus 40, James.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a team that has played good football, and I know people are saying they should be 4-0. They could just as well be 2-2. So I think you take the 3-1, and you have a chance to bounce back against a bad Raiders team at home, and then next week a Cardinals team that I'm still not too sold on either. So you're in a great spot. And I think, Kevin, you kind of were predicting, okay, how could the season look to this point? This is about as good realistically as it could look, in my opinion.
Well, that'll be coming up on Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock, the Colts and the Raiders. Raiders trying to start everything new. Pete Carroll is there. Geno Smith is there. And maybe it was Geno Smith and Pete Carroll a couple of years ago. But what do we expect from Geno Smith
Do you
right
think
now?
Pete Carroll looks like a poodle?
Where did that come from? I love that. But
now
where
I got to
did that
Google
come
his
from?
face.
Haven't thought about that ever.
As a Notre Dame fan, a lot of venom towards Pete Carroll, a lot of jealousy towards Pete Carroll. And
USC Pete Carroll?
Yeah, maybe back in that day he was more poodleish than he is now. They obviously are starting anew, pretty much. And Geno's really struggled with interceptions. That's been a clear issue. And Pete Carroll's had to answer a question or two this week of, hey, how long's the leash? Can he pick? They don't have the young guy to turn to. I mean, there's a lot of debate about the Raiders drafting a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they did not do that. Obviously, Genty was their first-round pick. So, we'll see. I think early in the game, if this was last year's defense or recent year defenses, I'd be really worried about a struggling quarterback getting into a rhythm against Gus Bradley's Colts. Lou Anarumo cannot allow for that. And so that, the first quarter or two, how Geno looks, I think is one of the few areas, could they keep this a game? And again, if you take away Brock Bowers potentially, I mean, it's probably the least potent wide receiver core you're going to see all year, at least one of them. So I think you're taking a total 180 in what you expected from your pass defense last week versus what you're going to expect this week.
Yeah, and we talked so much about the pass defense last week, but with Genti coming off his best game early as a pro, he's a rookie, but man, he lit it up against the Commanders last week. You just have to make sure that he's not getting loose for 6, 8, 10, 12-yard runs consistently, which puts them ahead of the chains. And we saw this at Boise State. We saw it last week. Still a home run hitter.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm looking at another stat here. DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart are tied for the most run stops among defensive linemen this season at 12. And so they're certainly going to be relied on to plug that middle and, force Ashton Genti to perhaps try to, do too much, bounce outside, extend plays. And that's when you got to have guys like Latu ready to set the edge and go after him. So I do think that the Raiders offense would like to rely on Ashton Genti a lot, but to Kevin's point, you want to make life a little uncomfortable for him. And honestly, their wide receiver room isn't all that great, but it just can't be a get-right game for Geno Smith. We saw that way too often last year, to Kevin's point. And I thought, after last week, seeing the way, Puka Nacua was able to just obliterate them, they should have some more wrinkles, in case a guy like Jacoby Myers or somebody starts to get going a bit.
Well, they will return home, Lucas Oil Stadium, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Our pregame show with the drive to kickoff JMV comes your way from the Bullseye Event Center, 9 o'clock. Then they have the pregame from 10 to 1. You'll hear it all right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Looking forward to that, and we'll see if they can bounce back from a road loss, in which, again, we've talked about it, and for all the things that we critiqued and were upset with the pass defense, they went right down to the wire with a team that I thought was going to be one of the better teams in the league, and then they kind of got beat up at home by a very injured 49ers team last night. The NFL is just so week to week, Kevin. You just don't know.
Well, Thursday night divisional games, and we talked about it with Jason Hammer. Even 8.5 without Brock Purdy, that just seemed like such a big number even yesterday to me. And the Rams did have a couple injuries. They didn't have the right tackle. Tyler Higbee was out, so I get that the outright win obviously is an upset, but the Colts, I feel like we almost forget about Thursday night games because it's been so long since the Colts have played them. And the Colts don't have them on the schedule this year. But
right.
Thursday night games, I almost just throw it out the window. I go back to Bills-Dolphins a few weeks ago saying to you guys, is this the night that weird in the NFL happens? And both of you looked at me cross-eyed, and I'm like, guys.
Well, the NFL is weird.
Thursday night games, you just don't know. And Miami had a great chance. They hung in there throughout that game. So, again,
So
the Colts don't have Thursday night games, so we should probably,
Yeah. All right, coming up in just a minute, we will talk more about the Colts with the post-game host, Greg Rakestraw, who also happens to know a thing or two about the local colleges and universities around here as well.
You think?
He's one of our favorites and one of the best, and we'll talk to Greg next on the Fan Morning Show, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I did not know this was happening today, Kevin Bowen. You have alerted me to a pop culture phenomenon, a Taylor Swift album release this morning, right? Is that what we got going on, Mark Blankton?
Yep. Life of a Showgirl is out, so figured strike all the irons hot.
Yeah, if you're a real fan like me, you would just played it at midnight.
Maybe he did.
I did listen to it all the way, though.
Will you go every re-entry today?
Yeah. I got to try to find all the clean songs, but yeah.
Does this have a radio edit, all these?
Yeah. There's a Travis Kelce song.
Let's hope.
I don't know if I can play that one.
Oh, man. What a life for Travis Kelce. Win Super Bowls, get songs written about you by the biggest artists in the world.
Well, you perform for a decade and you get that kind of stuff, right? That's how it works.
God's favorite.
It is the Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. It is Football Friday. We've already had a little bit of Operation Football with Channel 13 and Dominic Miranda, and now we bring in the one, the only, one of my favorites, one of my good friends, Greg Rakestraw on the Payless Liquors Hotline. I know Friday's always good for you, my friend. Welcome to the show. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, fellas. How we doing this morning?
Well, we're being treated to the album release of Taylor Swift, so there you go.
I did not realize that was going to be a big topic of conversation this morning. I feel unprepared for this.
I do too, but here we are. So, but you and I have a lot of other things to focus on, especially you tonight, correct?
Correct. So there's several kind of top 10 matchups in the area, and I'm lucky enough to have one of them. So Warren Central plays at Lawrence North. That is 5-1 versus 5-1. Again, both teams in the top 10, and that game for the MIC Championship this evening you can see on MyNDTV 23 and the ISC Sports Network.
He is Greg Rakestraw, and of course it's week 7. Pairing show is when, Rake? Another week?
Pairing show is next Sunday night. So that is usually done after the game of week 8, and it gives everybody kind of 2 weeks to prepare for their sectional opponent, or if you're 5A or 6A, you got 3 weeks because that sectional does not begin until Halloween.
I actually wanted to ask you a Colts question, obviously post-game show host, and I feel like you were there yesterday, and I feel like you were there on Wednesday. So,
I was.
The A.D. Mitchell situation, anything you have observed this week that has caught your ears in that convo? The Michael Pittman Jr. injury yesterday, I feel like could maybe impact, what their plan is with Mitchell for week 5,
sure.
But just curious your thoughts on what you've heard about A.D. Mitchell. I thought DeForest Buckner's words yesterday were really really strong and honestly describing kind of a veteran approach with Mitchell.
Correct. And I would go back to Shane Steichen's words from Monday and then kind of into Wednesday. And I was listening in on Monday. I was not there on Wednesday. But you and I, and JB obviously of the same ilk as well. When you're around Shane and now in year number 3, you kind of know what, to decipher the code, so to speak. And while if you're not familiar with the Colts, Shane's critique of AD would not be overly concerning, but that's pretty strong for Shane speak, so to speak, in terms of kind of what he said. I think you just put in a very good qualifier in terms of having a Michael Pittman injury may change how you have to deal with A.D. Mitchell or reps. Frankly, A.D. was going to get fewer reps if Alec Pierce was healthy, but A.D. is probably your primary backup for both Michael Pittman Jr. as well as Alec Pierce. So there may be kind of a plan in place to, I want to say send a message, but at the same time, you don't want to cut off your, cut off your nose to spite your face. And so if Michael Pittman Jr. isn't a full go or fully healthy, we may see more of A.D. Mitchell than was planned on Sunday afternoon.
Greg Rakestraw on the Payless Liquors Hotline right now, getting ready for the Colts and Raiders Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. What are your overall thoughts on just the secondary in general at this point in time? Obviously, there have been some challenges. Now we have player personnel changes, and we've kind of tree-topped that. But digging in on it, what does this look like the rest of the year?
Patchwork, as long as guys, aren't healthy. The hope is Kenny Moore is back sooner rather than later. Again, I don't think he's going to play this week, and I always thought this was a 2 to 3 week injury, but not a 4-week injury, or he would be on injured reserve. To be honest with you, I had honestly forgotten about Juju Brents until it was kind of brought up when I was at practice yesterday about Mekhi Blackmon getting his number. So when you list like all of the guys that were in camp with the Colts to play the cornerback position, and you go, well, Wally gets hurt, and you let Juju Brents go, and Jalen Jones has been injured. You forget that Sam Womack played a bunch last year. He was let go by the team, and now is on the Tennessee Titans squad. The majority of the guys that are getting reps at cornerback, either were undrafted free agents or guys that weren't with the team. And then you had a guy up and retire on Wednesday. So this is going to be a flashpoint for this team all year, and that's just the nature of the National Football League. There always tends to be for every team a position where your injuries get concentrated. So the Colts will be dealing with this all year. Hopefully you get a healthy Kenny Moore sooner rather than later, and hopefully you get a healthy Jalen Jones sooner rather than later, and that makes life better for everybody involved.
So, Rick, to pivot to the high school scene for a moment, where will you be tonight, and what should we be looking out for in your coverage?
All right, so Lawrence North and Warren Central is the game that I have this evening, and these two teams are similar to a certain degree. Both have tremendous running backs. Zay Moore is the featured back for LN, has been since his freshman year. He's averaging 150 yards a game, just a junior. Keon Thomas, junior for Warren Central, little bigger, little physical. Zay is more of a scat back and a guy that you just simply can't catch. Keon's going to pound on you a little bit. 148 yards a game is what he is averaging. Both of these teams have sophomore quarterbacks. Now, we kind of knew that was going to be the case for Lawrence North because Darian Prather was the backup as a freshman last year. Prather has been a running threat, which is something that Ellen maybe didn't use as much with Tanner as Peslett last year, but now have kind of brought that back with Prather to the game this year. For Warren Central, their sophomore quarterback is Jack Quillen, and part of the storyline there is that there were a couple of juniors in front of him at the start of the year, and Quillen now has secured the job, and the job is largely his. Both these teams are not as good defensively as they were last year. For Warren, they're still really good defensively. It's just how experienced that group was. But they have Jeremy Finch that's going to go to Alabama. They have Sean Fox that has Big Ten offers as a junior. They have Caleb Elkins who has Big Ten offers as a junior. And so they are very good defensively. LN, kind of similar. Graduated a really good defense last year, brought back 4 starters. Those kids are kind of growing into it. So I would put these two teams right below what I think are the top 3 in the state, and that is Brownsburg, Center Grove, and Carmel. This is kind of the next group, and what's interesting is that both of these two teams probably will line up against a couple of those teams I just mentioned once we would get to the regional round. If everybody's path kind of plays out as expected, Warren would see Center Grove in the regional. That seemingly is a certainty every year. Little more traffic for both LN and Brownsburg, but they should rematch each other in the regional from a year ago, where LN feels they gave one away and Brownsburg ended up winning a state championship. So these are two really good teams that maybe are slightly under the radar. We're going to be tough outs come postseason time.
Rake, last one from me. I'll take us in a different direction. Actually, announcement, I guess, in kind of our neighborhood yesterday, which I don't even know if I have a question. I just want to share that I think it's cool. I think it's awesome that North Carolina's basketball program said, you know what, Butler, let's play a home and home. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome. We're going to get North Carolina at Hinkle coming up 27 the year on that. So next year, Butler will go to Chapel Hill. North Carolina will return the favor. And I just think on-campus, non-conference games, I think that's awesome. And so, again, I don't really have a question, Rake. This might be you and I driving up to Notre Dame. And I just say to you, I love that North Carolina did that.
Well, this is not the first time North Carolina has played there, but they were one of the schools, and Dean Smith kind of started it. Roy Williams would follow it. And obviously these days with player movement, you can't plan this the way you used to. But North Carolina would always make sure they had a home game for one of their players his senior year in his own backyard. North Carolina came to Butler and played in Eric Montross' senior season. Obviously, it is a vastly different program now than it was 3 decades ago. And again, it's just that reminder of the company that Butler keeps being in the Big East. I mean, to me, Kevin, it is the second biggest announcement for Butler basketball this year, second only to bringing games back to 93.5 and 107.5.
Yes.
You are such a pro. I mean, literally, Webster's
In
Dictionary.
fact, I'm actually wearing a sweater vest to honor Mark Minner right now as we're having this conversation.
Unbelievable.
So in one
go
fell
a mile north of here, the Indianapolis Public Library, you go to the dictionary section and you look up professional, and it's a picture of Greg Mother Bleepin' Rakestraw.
I'll tell you what
right.
it is. He
That's
just
right.
he knows exactly what he's doing. He just got free lunch from both me and Mark Minner in the same sentence.
Are you sweater vest guy, Rake?
I am very fat guys tend to be sweater vest guys. Mark is part of the circle that is not fat guy sweater vest. I'm the overlapping circles of fat guy sweater vest. Absolutely.
I like it.
I ask this in all seriousness. Do you have a play-by-play wardrobe is not probably the path I'm going to go down. Do you have like a staple? Do you have something you do, say, wear for every broadcast? Are you? I'm not asking like Jim Nance cuts off his tie
Sure.
and gives it, to the Super Bowl winning quarterback or something like that. Do you do anything along that we maybe just don't know?
Probably the thing that I am want to say, and I'm not sure why I felt like quoting Days of Our Lives, but I said it once, and I kind of ingrain it now towards the end of the broadcast. You will hear me drop a phrase, something to the akin of the sands of the hourglass are starting to fall a little faster as time is winding down. And that first kind of, that thought of, hey, it's kind of getting late in this game. I will say that. From the 11 perspective, there's obviously cue to smoke. I am known if it is a bruising run in football to say, or like he is getting yards after contact. Clearly, he did not skip leg day. I saw Titus McCoy one time in his age at Center Grove literally back his way 9 yards down the field for a first down. I think that was the impetus of that. From a wardrobe standpoint, again, I will go back to fat guy status. I wear what fits. These days, it is an ISC hoodie. I've got like a whole slew of them that are made by Carhartt. They're so comfy and cozy. You saw me in one yesterday. Finally, I actually need to dress up and look the part standpoint, usually in my sport coat or in my shirt or tie, I am usually wearing purple as I nod to my hometown.
There we go, Lanesville.
And tonight, will we hear this? Will we get a look? Wow. The dulcet tones of Greg Rakestraw.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
I don't think we'll get that
I
tonight,
think
right?
what I really have to do is I have to work in a Hope and Bo Brady reference at some point in time. That's the subtle nod to the show.
I was a General Hospital guy back in the day, Greg. That's how it works.
As a Broncos guy, I thought you were going to bring up All My Children because that is what John Elway was watching when he learned he was being traded from the Colts to the Broncos.
See, that's why we have you around for tidbits like that.
This guy's
right
an
there.
encyclopedia.
He is. Hey, real quick before we go to, I'd be remiss. How's Purdue going to do against Illinois tomorrow?
They got a shot. I think they are significantly better, but they've got a ways to go. What's great is that if Purdue wins, DeForest Buckner has said he's going to put JB in the Duck mascot just because we think that's funny and needs to continue on a weekly basis. I expect Illinois to win. I expect Purdue to be competitive. How about that?
I was going to say, was candy stripe pants not enough for you people? Not enough?
Can you imagine?
No, it's not. You got to feed the beast. Fresh content every week, James. That's the way this works.
That is true. It is true.
I told him he's going to have to be Purdue Pete next week if that takes place. All right, Greg. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.
There he is, the one, the only Greg Rakestraw on the Payless Liquors hotline. Get that headgear fitted like Lee Corso. Get it ready, man.
Shout out to Lee Corso, man. I could not believe he started that phenomenon. It is, and now Pat McAfee just jumps off things every show. So I guess that's like the successor to
Found
what
his
Lee
own
Corso
thing.
did. Yeah.
Found his own thing. Let's check it down, Mark. We got a lot to do today. Let's get going to it.
Not tonight, sweetheart. Give me that hand.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I've never heard that audio
I think
before.
that's when he put the Puddles headgear on, right? Right
I
then?
believe
That's what
so,
that was
yeah.
about?
Mm-hmm.
That's what that was about, Mark?
Sure. Whatever you say.
What goes on in front of your 3 kids that are under the age of 8?
Wait, hold up. What?
Just saying. No, the discussion in the household. That's all I'm asking about.
Great dad.
All right.
Well, we get to a morning check down while we can here.
Let's lead with baseball, Mark Dykton. Give me what you got.
Cubs win. Joel A. Erickson. We're on rival sides at this point. I would say I wish you luck, but I don't mean it. Unlike Kevin, I will not be sporting any Brewers gear even if they beat the Cubs. Stick it, my friend.
There you
Brewers
go.
are going down.
So you won't be dressing up as Bernie?
No.
This from Keenan. Gentlemen, we have to acknowledge how Kevin's loving support as a friend, that was in all caps, by the way, wearing Cubs gear spurred on that win last night. Keenan, I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that.
Well,
Mark,
I like how someone
congrats.
suggested play Go Cubs Go again during the show, and you said in all caps, excuse me, as if you didn't want to hear it again. But you're Mr. Cub now.
We had a couple of those comments. Another Pete Carroll nickname that I don't know if it's safe for air I saw was shared here. So, yeah. Mark, congrats. I don't love the Saturday starts to the divisional round, I must say.
I don't either, but I'm happy to be playing a little bit longer. So we'll see how long it lasts.
And then we break it up, right? We don't go like 4 games every day, right? I know Saturday's a full slate, but then we kind of break it up, right?
Yeah.
Don't we do like 2 games a day?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get some weekday action, not necessarily during the day, but next week we'll have 2 games.
I mean, you guys know where I lie with my allegiance for the playoffs, but do you guys have any teams that you are circling as far as like, yeah, I'd like to see them get to the World Series or win it? Do you have any preference or not really?
A little bit from a Mariners standpoint there. I think the Cal Raleigh storyline is pretty cool. And, Seattle, when it comes to professional sports, they don't always get what they want, I guess. So, yeah, I'll go a little Mariners action.
Yeah, I lived in the Northwest not too long after college and covered the Mariners back in the early King Griffey Jr. days and just have a lot of friends up there. So it'd be nice to see those guys do well. James?
Well, I mean, of course, you got to go with the little guys like the Dodgers. They haven't won anything as of late. But I just like watching – seriously, if I'm going to watch October baseball, playoff baseball, I like to see the best players in the world do their thing. And Shohei is certainly somebody who performs and the lights are brightest.
Do we really want, though, like a Yankees-Dodgers World Series? Do we need to
I'm
stay
usually in that camp, yeah. But I also am not a baseball guy, so people will tell me shut up. But, I don't mind that. Big markets.
If the Cubs don't do it, I love Kyle Schwarber, so I'll be rooting for the Phillies.
You know what?
If they don't do that.
I probably can get with that. I think he's had an incredible season, and he's really had he's kind of had like a renaissance, I guess, with Philadelphia to a degree. I mean, I don't know if I thought he would be this caliber of player when he left the Cubs, but, I mean, the dude is balling.
All right, so the Cubs win 3-1. It was the Tigers over the Indians 6-3. They advanced the divisional series, and the Yankees did shut out the Red Sox by a score of 4-0. I'm going to try it again. I was successful the first time. Cam Schlittler, 8 innings, 12 strikeouts, no walks. He's only been a major leaguer for less than 3 months, and he just did something that, as far as Elias and ESPN research can find, has never been done in the postseason. 8 innings, 12 strikeouts, no runs, and no walks. Amazing.
I think they finally
found... He might
found
be yelling that Lee Corso audio.
I think they finally found something on that and went back to like 1920 or something crazy where it was like, that's the closest they could get. I'm like, that's insane.
Well, moving on for all those victors last night in Major League Baseball. Thursday night football last night. The Niners held off the Rams in overtime, 26-23. The Niners getting it done, James, without Brock Purdy, without George Kittle, without Brandon Ayuk, without Juwan Jennings. They just keep finding ways to win. They are 4-1, and they've been dealing with that all year long.
Yeah, it is one of the better feats in this sport right now, considering how banged up they are. And I thought Mac Jones, you didn't even mention him, he was injured throughout that game. I mean, every time he hit the ground, it was kind of like a boxer. You're waiting for him to get up, or it's going to be like a standing 8 count. But he got up, and he helped that team get over the hump and get a big, big win on the road.
Yeah, 342 yards passing, 2 touchdowns for him. And look, Stafford was no slouch last night. He had 380 yards passing last night. Just insane what he was able to do. 389 when it was all said and done, Kevin.
Yeah, so for those that missed it last night, Sean McVay went for a 4th and 1 in overtime. They could have kicked the field goal and tied the game. He decided to go for it. Kyron Williams, who had fumbled late in regulation on the goal line, just a crippling fumble. Kyron Williams gets stuffed. So it was quite the entertaining game last night for Thursday Night Football. Some interesting decisions, certainly. And by the way, the Colts will see the 49ers, maybe what's left of the 49ers with all the injuries they have, all the way just before Christmas. That's a Monday Night Football game late in the year. So could be some playoff implications for an AFC and NFC team there in Week 16.
All right, and coming up on Sunday afternoon, of course, the Colts will entertain the Las Vegas Raiders. That one starts at 1 o'clock. What's our latest injury update for the Horseshoe right now?
Yeah, so it's going to be a newsy day, I think, not only here in Indy, but out in Vegas. So Colts, good news. Alec Pierce, Matt Gonzalez, 2 straight days of practice. So good news there. Not good news, Kenny Moore II did miss a second straight day. And then we got some question marks on a couple guys, one being Michael Pittman Jr., wasn't on the injury report Wednesday, popped up on it yesterday, limited with a hamstring. Now, again, not on the injury report, and then you pop up on a Thursday. Last week, for example, Braden Smith did that. And Braden Smith practiced Friday and played every snap in the game on Sunday. So, nothing burger. And then also, we've seen times where Julian Blackmon's been limited with an Achilles, and sure enough, he tore the Achilles in practice. Like, the limited language is so vague. Yeah. That can mean 1 rep, that can mean 99 reps in a practice. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what Michael Pittman Jr.'s status is later today. I would assume that could have some A.D. Mitchell impact here for Week 5. And then out in Vegas, Brock Bowers went from practicing Wednesday to not practicing yesterday. He has dealt with a nagging knee injury here early this season. So what is his status? And Max Crosby, who never shows up on the injury report, hasn't been on it all year. He did not practice yesterday due to a knee injury. So lots of questions here in Week 5 for both teams.
Yeah, Max Crosby is just a machine and a menace out there on the defensive line, too. So we'll wait and see what happens for the Raiders on that one. Big high school football night tonight. We talked to Dominic Miranda, Operation Football, Channel 13, not too long ago. Cathedral Center Grove. This is a big one tonight, but also looking forward to Warren Central and Lawrence North. The Cathedral high school football team, Kevin, will be playing Center Grove tonight, as I mentioned just a moment ago. Is there a chance for an upset there?
I'd assume Center Grove by a couple scores, right? Cathedral has issues scoring this season. Is that correct?
And then John Harrell has his prediction, which usually is pretty darn close. He has it at 31-21 Center Grove.
It's competitive.
Can you bet on high school football games, or is that not healthy?
I mean, you can probably bet under the table, but I would not think you can legally do that.
By the way, Kyle Nenrip's piece on Miles McLaughlin, the Knox running back, was excellent.
Yes,
it
I
just
enjoyed
really,
that.
really great. We'll probably have Kyle on once we get closer to playoff time, but this is the kid that is threatening to set the single state, or I shouldn't say single, career rushing record in the state of Indiana. Really cool story. And honestly, a lot community background on Knox and everything that kind of goes into Russ Radke, a longtime head coach here in the state. So Kyle Nenrip is the GOAT, and he was excellent with that piece. Encourage everyone to check that out on Indy Star's website.
That kid might run for 5,000 yards before it's all said and done. It's a little bit of an overreach, but you get the point. He just goes and goes and goes, and it was a great piece. And then all right, we got college football coming up tomorrow. We mentioned number 22 Illinois playing at Ross 8 against Purdue. That is a noon kickoff. James Boyd has vowed to wear a Purdue Pete headgear if his Illini go down in that one, right?
No, I ain't doing none of that.
All right,
because we ain't going down. Gonna beat the brakes off them.
Boise State, big underdog up at Notre Dame, 21st ranked Fighting Irish, trying to keep it going and keep it back on track there, Kevin.
I love watching Jeremiah Love play football. Dare I say there's some Reggie Bush in him?
Ooh, you were just taking shots at Pete Carroll not that long ago because of such things.
You guys don't see the poodle in Pete Carroll?
I really
never
don't.
thought
Am I
about
the only one here?
Mark? You might be on an island by yourself, brother.
I think you're on your own there. Is it just the hair? Is that what it is?
I mean, just picture a poodle next to Pete Carroll, and you could say, all right, and ancestry, what is it, 3andMe or whatever?
23andMe.
23andMe.
All right. Anything else you guys want to throw in?
Pacers got their fan jam on Sunday, so that's 11 o'clock. So if you're going to the Colts game or you're downtown, you can check that out before their first preseason game is Tuesday, and they will pay their respects to the great Nancy Leonard tomorrow. So no practice for the Pacers tomorrow. Rick Carlisle wanted to make sure his team was able to attend her funeral, so that will be up in Carmel tomorrow. And the Fever had their exit interviews yesterday. It sounded like Caitlin Clark has expressed first she needs to get healthy. The goal is to play 5-on-5 by the end of the month. And it sounded like she was supportive of Nafisa Collier's comments. Yeah. She didn't, get into great detail, but she definitely said that she agreed with a lot of what Nafisa Collier said about the league as a whole. And she stressed, and it is so true, she stressed this is the most important time in the league's history. And I would agree with that. And she really backed the WNBA and no. Like, I want 5, 10, 15-year-olds to watch this league. I guess in golf right now, we certainly have a splitting of hairs at the top of the league, or I guess at the top of whatever professional golf. With Caitlin Clark, she was adamant. No. The WNBA is where we want to be. We just need to make sure that we continue to go on the right path there. So I would assume if you are leadership in the W, you like to hear that from Caitlin Clark, although I found it odd that Kathy Engelbert has not reached out to her.
She's hiding in a hole somewhere
Yeah,
right now.
Few days. The last quick thing I'll throw in there is the WNBA finals do start tonight between the Aces and the Mercury. If you're looking for some Indiana ties there, you have Jewel Lloyd, former Notre Dame star, going for her, I believe, third WNBA championship. She won 2 with the Seattle Storm back in the day, and then back in the day, but a few years ago. Dana Evans, Gary, Indiana native for the Aces. She's going for her second championship. She won with the Sky. And then you have Jackie Young, the all-time leading scorer in Indiana high school basketball history, boys or girls, going for her third championship with the Aces. And so those are your Indiana ties for tonight. And, of course, they're going up against former Indiana Fever, DeWanna Bonner, on the Mercury, who she had some comments on the team saying, things were crazy and it wasn't good, but she won't say what it was. So, me, I like beef. And if you want to get a little beef cooked up tonight, there you have it.
And one more Notre Dame, Catherine Westbeld for the Mercury as well. So a lot of Notre Dame women's basketball flavor in the finals here.
You're rocking that shirt today, too.
DeWanna Bonner, she bothers me, James. Just say it.
I don't get it, but hey, I digress.
We will hear a little bit more from Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, who had some interesting things to say about the commissioner and the league a little bit later on. But we'll talk more Colts coming up in just a minute. We got a lot to do today. It's next, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Mark Dykton treating us all to the latest Taylor Swift album release, which dropped, at midnight tonight?
Uh-huh.
Or I guess this morning. I should say midnight this morning. It probably has like 8 billion downloads on Spotify already.
Probably. Striking while the iron's hot. Not every day you get to have the most streamed artist drop an album. So figure we should have some rejoiners, try to bump those numbers up.
Yeah, you guys, both James Boyd and Kevin Bowen, spending time as they always do out at Colts camp yesterday and checking out what's going on. And there were some interesting things being said and spoken about in the locker room as well, right, Kevin?
James, I thought the DeForest Buckner answer about A.D. Mitchell was exactly what you would want to hear from a captain. And I think Buck has, I don't know, maybe I didn't give him enough credit early in his time here in Indy. Maybe he was just trying to establish himself after the trade. But I feel like lately he has taken on much more of that kind of voice of the locker room role. It doesn't do it in a boisterous manner by any means. One of those, hey, when he speaks, we all should listen. So let's play this audio again. Buckner, I get it's not the side of the ball of A.D. Mitchell, but he is a captain. So I was asked yesterday about if he felt the need to say anything to A.D. Mitchell this week.
Just about everything. Yeah, I mean, I feel like everybody, a lot of guys, talk to him a little bit, just give him some encouragement and everything. I mean, AD's a special talent. We all know that. I mean, the hardest part of the play was, the catch, the spin, getting down there, breaking free. And the last part is fixable. You know what I mean? Just the attention to detail. And he knows that, and the maturity that he has, him coming up in the team meeting and apologizing to the team. I mean, that just shows the maturity right there. He knows, he cares, he loves ball, he loves his team, and we love him. So we're always going to have his back.
That's what team captains do. I would agree with you. James Boyd, your thoughts as you were watching that take place?
I think Buckner is the best leader they have on the team, honestly. If you look at all that probably requires, even from a public forward-facing standpoint, I think that he just kind of gets it. And I understand where he was getting at with A.D. Mitchell. And, I thought he kind of gave him what one of my old bosses used to give you like a love sandwich where you get like the praise at the beginning, oh, great play. You mention what kind of messed up, what ruined everything. And then you kind of end it by saying something good again. And I think that's probably what A.D. Mitchell needs at this point, is just some people to kind of have his back. And obviously the general public and those of us in the media, we're going to be critical. I'll be honest, I don't feel like sorry for him or any sympathy. I mean, you did something that was very dumb on a big stage and it cost you. But as a teammate, I think it is refreshing to have somebody be a bit vulnerable with you, but also hold you accountable, because I think that's what DeForest Buckner does a great job of and has done a great job of throughout his time with the Colts. You go back to last year when Anthony Richardson got benched and DeForest Buckner again was kind of the voice of reason throughout all of that as well.
James, if healthy at wideout, and again, Michael Pittman Jr. limited yesterday with the hamstring injury, do you think A.D. Mitchell plays on Sunday?
No, I do not.
Regardless
of what?
Of whether or not Pittman plays.
Well, he asked if he was healthy, if the entire room is healthy.
And I just piled on and said, what about either or?
Okay, well, yeah, so to pivot, if Pittman's not available, I think you do have to kind of assess your room and see, okay, well, are we hurting the team if we don't put A.D. Mitchell out there? But, assuming that he can go, I'd still sit him because it just goes back to what we said all week. They went over this. They had a slogan for it, letters and logos, about you running to the end zone and completing the play. And according to Shane Steichen, not my words, these are his, you didn't do that because you were showboating. So for those out there who are saying, oh, he was trying to extend the ball to score and stay in bounds and stay on balance, no. His own coach said, yeah, I talked to him, and this is how he portrayed it to me. So, again, this wouldn't be a season-ending thing, or I wouldn't make it a multi-week thing. But at some point, I think you're going to have to, have something taken away from you for you to appreciate, how serious your job is and to take it, I think, to a higher standard for yourself.
And for what it's worth, on the practice squad, you do have veteran Laquan Treadwell, who I think people will remember him, former first-round pick, shined in that preseason finale. And then Coleman Owen, another guy that shined throughout the preseason. Now, probably more of a slot guy than playing outside. And again, I don't know if those guys being on the practice squad have great influence on your plan with A.D. Mitchell, but just wanted to point that out, and we'll see. Practice squad call-ups typically happen on Saturday if you do make those, and then we'll see today Michael Pittman Jr.'s status at practice. But it does look like Alec Pierce should be back in the lineup. He did practice again yesterday.
I love the question you posed, Kevin. I want to drill down a little deeper on that because coaches are different. Some old school hardcore coaches like a Bill Parcells. Like, I don't know that Bill would sit down with his wide receiver and go, "Hey, yeah, we're going to bench you this week." He'd just do it. Like, you just wouldn't. When a guy fumbled the ball twice in one game, he just didn't get the ball anymore for a while. And then he'd slowly work him back into the game plan over time. I just wonder if it's a conversation that Shane Steichen had, like, hey, we're going to sit you down for a week, or you're just not part of the game plan this week.
Yeah, and again, unfortunately, I think the Pittman injury situation is going to have potentially significant influence on what you do with A.D. Mitchell. You know, Pittman's a guy that usually plays every snap, or very close to every snap, I should say. So if this hamstring limits him in any way, or obviously takes him out of the game, then, you know, potentially your hands are tied a little bit here. So, you know, that obviously wasn't on the radar here earlier in the week. So, again, Friday injury report, it's sometimes more of an issue. Like, we're going to predict the game, and I don't think, like, a lot of these guys' availabilities will influence potentially how the game is going to go, because I don't think the Raiders are very good. But, you know, you have injury situations here that we've talked about, and then out in Vegas, again, Brock Bowers didn't practice yesterday. He's dealt with a nagging knee injury, and Max Crosby popped up on the injury report. It's the first time he's been on it all year long here in week 5. So they, you know, if we're doing the show out in Vegas right now, they're probably talking a whole lot about that as well.
All right, coming up in a minute, we will talk a little bit more about Caitlin Clark with a little love letter to the city of Indianapolis and the state of Indiana yesterday as she was doing her exit interviews. Some of the things that she and Sophie Cunningham had to say about the latest brouhaha over leadership in the WNBA, specifically the commissioner, Kathy Engelbert. It's all coming your way. And Matt Taylor, top of the hour, too, at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan, including your phone calls, texts, and more. Next.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.1.
Cloud said that, and I thought you had the perfect response to that as well, too. I got news for everybody. Players in professional sports don't get treated equally by the coach, do they? And for good reason sometimes.
Well, and I would argue that should frankly go for any human. When you make a mistake, if there's going to be a punishment with that certain mistake, I think your past history as an individual should matter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's playing favorites.
I mean, you're literally explaining the law.
Yeah,
it's like seriously.
I mean,
you don't want to be in front of the judge
used
4 times.
You know, the phrase I've used a couple times this week, and again, I don't want to act like A.D. Mitchell is, did something criminal, but like, are you a repeat offender? And in this case, he is a repeat offender when it comes to you have questions about trusting him. Not necessarily that exact play, but last year, the trust factor was when you throw the ball to A.D. Mitchell, more often than not, that ball is going to be incomplete. Well, that's not very trustworthy as a wideout. Again, right now, it's worse than Darius Hayward-Bay's time here in Indianapolis, to put it into perspective. And then obviously you had the holding penalty as well. So I cannot say the Taylor-Mitchell thing is apples to apples. I can't. And I also think Mitchell was showboating, whereas Taylor, I think, just dropped it.
I think he was showboating too, though. JT celebrated too early. That's exactly why he dropped the ball. It's both of them. They both celebrated too early and ruined a great play. So I'll push back there on that. But the other thing I'll throw out there is I truly believe, just to kind of expand on the broader point you made a few seconds ago, that I don't think anybody's treated equally in anything in life. I'm dead serious about that. Like, I don't think my parents have told me this. You don't raise your kids the same. Like, you want to raise them with the same values, but like, I'm different than my sister. Like, it's just not. I feel like anybody who says that, like, it should be a uniform punishment all across the board, unless it is youth sports and everyone's getting a medal at the end. No, that is not how reality works. Like, every job I've ever had, you did not get treated the same. Like, love Stephen Holder, works for ESPN. Does he get the same treatment as Stephen A. Smith? No, they have the same name, but no. So, I mean, let's be, realistic here.
Well, but I also think it's not you're favoring one or the other. Sometimes it's just you're meeting the kid where he is, or you're meeting that athlete where they are. Sometimes you come down too heavy on the wrong guy. You might lose him altogether. I mean, you gotta have to a certain extent. It's different at professional sports, obviously, but I also think there's a certain amount of, to DeForest Buckner's point just a moment ago, you want to make sure you as a teammate support him and make sure that he doesn't just get tossed into the corner and ignored all the time.
Absolutely. But at the same time, yeah, I'm not going to treat you. The distinction I'll make is we can treat you fairly but not equally. And that is the most plain way I can put it. When you look at their careers, especially in sports, and again, any avenue in life, any career path you take, if person A has done infinitely more positive things than person B and they make the same mistake, person B is going to get the brunt of, or feel that a little bit more than person A. So that's just how I look at it.
Anonymous texting in at 239-1070 on the fan text line. Kevin, Notre Dame fans do refer to Pete Carroll as the Poodle. You may not be alone there.
Oh, is that your little chat room nickname for him? Is that what it is?
That was my second phone that I was using there to text in to the text line there. Mark, should we do our most entertaining, hardest, easiest game here?
Of course. We always can. Sure.
Let's get it going.
Okay. We're going to leave Colts-Raiders to the side for this one, but as we do every Friday, most exciting game you're looking forward to, and also the easiest and hardest games to predict when it comes to spread or just outright winners.
We'll start entertaining. I think this slate stinks.
Yes.
I think it's one of the worst slates I've seen in the NFL this season. It's awful. So where am I going? I'm going coffee football. It's the lowest over-under of the year. Browns, Vikings.
Oh, man.
Coffee football is the only thing that's going to be entertaining. You can cheer for the over 35.5 points. This slate is terrible. So I'm going there.
I looked at it and I thought much the same thing. I'm going to wait until Monday night, last game on the schedule. It's not quite the playoff rematch from a couple of years, but Jacksonville is 3-1. They're playing better under Liam Cohen. They've got the running game going with ETN. Kansas City rebounding from a tough spot on the road. Again, a game that they probably feel that they have to win. I think Monday night, the Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars is probably the best game of the week.
I'll go Buccaneers, Seahawks. They're both 3-1, and I do like watching Baker Mayfield play football. I feel like he's one of the more entertaining quarterbacks. I wouldn't put him in like that top tier, but man, when he's balling, he is fun to watch. And so also for just playoff positioning, it's on a super early in the season, but you got 2 3-1 teams. That is probably the biggest game on the slate when it comes to record and quality of opponent.
That was going to be mine, James, but I'll tweak it just a little bit. I don't know if it's most exciting, but most intriguing for me, Texans, Ravens, because both teams are 1-3.
Good point.
One of those teams is going to be 1-4. And you want to talk about teams that had playoff expectations. 1-4, I don't know. And Lamar Jackson doesn't look like he's going to play for the Ravens. They have a morgue basically on the injury report. They have a crazy amount of injuries. Can the Texans get back on track? One of those teams is going to be 1-4 by the end of Sunday, and I'm kind of intrigued to see who it will be and if they can actually dig themselves out of that. Because that's a pretty deep hole we're getting ourselves into.
Yeah, I would agree on that. Okay, my hardest game to pick, Cardinals-Titans. James Wood mentioned this earlier. Like, what are the Cardinals? Colts play them next week. Are they good? I don't really think they are. 7.5 against the Titans. I know Tennessee is terrible, but still, I feel like they should be able to keep that within a touchdown. Part of me thinks that, but then part of me is like, Kevin, they just got shut out last week. So that game I'm torn on. So Cardinals, 7.5-point favorite. I think that's one of the harder games to pick.
I see where you're coming from, but I like it. I think Tennessee is just so bad. And Kyler Murray, that's a guy that on any given week can throw for 280 and rush for 70 and be accountable for 3 touchdowns. And I think this is the perfect team to do that against at home for them. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying there. And
I say it's the hardest game to pick. You're saying it's the easiest game to pick.
I think it's to me, it's one of the easier games to pick. Well, but that's going to be interesting. Then. Yeah. Probably my hardest game to pick is the one you guys were talking about a second ago. Tampa Bay at Seattle. Again, both teams are 3-1. Seattle's better than people think they are. And that's a long trip. That's probably the longest trip you can make in the NFL, isn't it? From the far southeast corner, maybe Miami to Seattle is probably a little bit worse, but it's got to be one of the longest trips, and we've talked about it before, although the statistics seem to have debunked it over the last 7 or 8 years, Kevin. I still been with you. It just feels like it's tough for teams to go from east back to west and play a lot earlier than they're used to.
So for me, I would probably pick Saints-Giants. The Saints are favored in this game. Or 1.5. They're also winless, and so I just feel like
I'd rather stab my eyes out than watch that game.
No, I'm not saying I watch it. But I'm like hardest to pick.
Just when you said it out loud,
I'm not picking any Saints game to be favored to win a game. And then I still don't know about Jackson Dart. I know, and I'll go there. For those who are on social media, please go look at the tweet that Connor Hughes had. He's a reporter for the Giants and the Jets regarding Jackson Dart and his performance in his NFL debut. And his first start and first win. Some of the funniest, most comedic writing, and he was dead serious when he wrote it. I was crying laughing because I thought it was the most ridiculous thing in the world. But nevertheless, I don't envision Jackson Dart the way he does, and so that to me is a hard game to pick.
Hardest game for me, Commanders-Chargers. Chargers are 2.5-point favorites. The Chargers just laid an egg against Jackson Dart and the Giants. And Jaden Daniels is on track to play, but I don't know the extent of how healthy he is. That's an intriguing one. That's a late window one. That is a tough one to pick. I would stay away from that one. I hope it's a great game, but I don't know who's coming out on top on that one.
Okay, so now our easiest game to pick here. I'm going to go Chargers, 2.5 at home. Commanders, long trip out there. We'll see where they're at from an injury standpoint. I get the Chargers have got some offensive tackle injuries, but Justin Herbert, 2.5 points at home. I'd like to think they bounce back after last week.
Mm-hmm. If not now, win for the Dallas Cowboys. Playing a Jets team that I think is marginally better than the Titans, to be honest with you. And if the Cowboys don't get it together and roll this week, just write them off again before we even get to their bye game. How about that?
Settle down just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm trying to think for myself. You know what? I think one of the easier games, I don't think that the Lions will beat the Bengals. They're 10.5-point favorites. I just feel like the NFL's weird. We're going to have a weird game at some point. And 10.5 is like a huge number.
Big number. Yep. Big number.
And I feel like, is Detroit going to win fairly easily? I do think that. But, man, winning by, over basically 11 points, that's tough. So I'm going to say that is one of my easier games to pick, when it comes to the fact that I just don't think that the Detroit's going to beat them by that much.
James and I are on the same wavelength, but I'm taking the Lions to destroy the Bengals. The Bengals stink.
Ooh.
Did you watch that
Monday night game? I know, but then I'm also like,
they couldn't do a damn thing. And you think Dan Campbell is gonna his boys lay an egg against Jake Browning and the
I'm not saying lay an egg, but I'm like a comfy 10-point win.
Man,
no, they're
Marcus Vince Carter French guy right there.
They are going to destroy the Bengals,
my friend.
Do you just hate everything about Cincinnati?
No, I love Cincinnati. It's a great city and all that stuff. I just don't like what they've looked like lately. But I also think the Lions they're not one of those teams that are going to take an opponent easily.
That is true.
So I might even up it to like a 2-touchdown score.
They're due for a trap game man.
You're going to adjust it online?
I might, yeah.
There we go.
There you
all
go.
Right, that's our thoughts on Week 5 of the National Football League and the voice of the Indianapolis Colts, Matt Taylor. Next, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Friday, Operation Football, Football Friday, whatever you want to call it. It's also Taylor Swift Day, Mark Dykton. She dropped her latest album at midnight this morning, and it's probably setting all kinds of records for downloads as we speak.
It's like 6 million pre-saved downloads on Spotify alone, so I can only imagine.
Oh, man, that's crazy
People
stuff.
going through the lyrics like it's like solving a cold case. It's wild.
That is. I'm always surprised at people who are able to memorize that stuff right away. And I'm like, how do you know the lyrics in 3 days?
It's probably been, 6 or 7 times through on Matt Taylor's drive to work this morning. Matt Taylor joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline, as he does every Friday morning. Let's get it going, Mark Dykton.
He's there.
All right. Good morning, Mark. How are you?
He's there.
I'm not even Mark. Good morning, Matt. How you doing today? Mark, Matt, Mike. I'm just so flustered with Taylor Swift. What can I tell you?
Matt, are you a Swiftie?
No, I'm not. No, I this is all news to me that there's a new album coming out. So in order for me to listen to her new album on Spotify on my phone, I first have to download Spotify on my phone, right? So
okay.
I'm very much like fourth and 20 as it relates to all of this. I apologize.
Well, I was that way early this morning too, but I've been educated in the last few hours by Mark Dykton. So we're looking forward to some football this weekend.
Indeed. Voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor with us. Matt, before we get into your wonderful Taylor's tidbits, Colts and Raiders back at home coming up 1 o'clock on Sunday. Your favorite Shaquille Leonard memory is what?
Well, my favorite play of his was the pick six he had against Tampa Bay in 2019. I think it was 2019. I know it was late.
Jameis Winston pick six, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was late in the year, and the Colts were trying to make a playoff push that year. And he picked off the first one and took it back to the house. Had another pick later on in that game. I mean, there's so many of them. I actually talked to him yesterday. We did an interview. Larry Overton and I did an interview with him on the phone in advance for Sunday, and we're going to play that interview tonight on Colts Happy Hour here on the Fan, and then we're also going to play it again on our pregame show on Sunday. And it's a really good interview. And I just asked him. One of the questions I asked him, obviously, is just how hard the end of his career was, because remember, Kevin, you were there for it. I know you've, done the chronology on all of this, but he had, the ankle surgery in 19 and 21, and then he had the back injury or the back surgery on the discs, to help some of the nerves that were going down his leg. Because remember, he didn't have the explosiveness in the lower leg and the calf area. And they originated it. It's because he's got pinched nerves in his back with some bulging discs. So he had surgery on that in June of 2022. And then he gets a concussion and breaks his nose and has to have a surgery on the nose, I think in October of 22. And then his season was shut down in November of 22 for another surgery on the back. So he had 4 big-time major surgeries in about a 2-year span. And in talking to him yesterday, he also revealed that, he's had a major surgery on his body every year since 2018. And, obviously that took its toll and kind of robbed him of his superpowers. And he got very emotional. And so I encourage people to check out that interview later on tonight and this weekend if you can, if you're in your car listening on the radio. But you have to remind people just how good he was and how he was able to kind of cram in such an impactful career in a short amount of time, because he basically played 5 really good years. His last year was 2023. But, let's remember that in 2021, when he was definitely in his prime, led the NFL in takeaways, created with 16. From 2018 to 2023, he ranked 3rd in forced fumbles, 1st in interceptions among all linebackers. He was the only player in NFL history with 10 or more interceptions and 15 or more forced fumbles in his first 5 years. And I went back and kind of tallied it up. He had almost 40 career takeaway plays in 5 years in the NFL, his first 5 years in the league. So, there are certain players that, that are just kind of out there and they're doing their job. And I don't want to downplay, their significance. And then there are guys like Shaq, Leonard that just truly make game-changing plays and turn the game around with their presence. And that was certainly him. He said that his favorite moment in the NFL out of all of them was the Kiki QT go-ahead, or I should say would-be game-tying touchdown in 2020, that COVID year, home game at Lucas Oil Stadium. The Colts are winning 27-20, but the Texans have the ball, and they're driving with Deshaun Watson. He throws a pass over the middle to Kiki QT, and he's diving into the end zone trying to get across the goal line. But right before he does, Leonard comes from his left behind QT and just does his patented punch of the ball.
I can see it now.
It goes into the end zone, recovered by the Colts for a touchback, and they win the game. So that's just the level of playmaking ability that he had in a nutshell.
I cannot wait for that. Slight tease, if you don't mind, and hopefully that'll also be up on the Colts audio networks if you can't catch it live on our airwaves. What is he up to now, Matt? I've seen a little bit of high school football. Looks like he's helping out back in South Carolina, but what's he up to?
Yeah, he's back in his hometown of South Carolina, and that's exactly right. He's coaching high school football, coaching his alma mater and giving back. And so he still is relating to the game and trying to pay it forward to the youngsters in his community, because I think he's probably the biggest role model, in that area, very much a long shot guy to make it to the NFL, South Carolina State, and not a lot of high prospects to go to college. And just to be able to carve out the career that he had is just simply unbelievable. And, we asked him how he's doing physically, and he said, he has good days and bad days, and just kind of depends. I mean, we all can, I guess, in a sense, relate to that. When you wake up, sometimes you just don't feel right, and it's certainly way more accentuated when you've had the amount of surgeries, the amount of wear and tear that he put on his body. But for the most part, it's doing really good, and I think still coming to peace a little bit with how his career ended. I think he's got certainly a bitter taste in his mouth, but I think he's grown and is I think showing more and more reflection every day, just how blessed he was and how big of an impact he had on the Colts organization, both on and off the field in the city of Indianapolis and all the fans here.
I'll tell you what, Mayte, if I see him Sunday, when I see him Sunday, and he doesn't yell at me and tell me that I disrespected him, I'm going to say he's losing. He's lost his fastball a little bit. So looking forward to seeing Shaq, Darius Leonard.
Well, I'm sure he still has. He definitely has his screenshots of stuff. I'm sure everybody said about it, because that's what motivated him, right? I mean, that's what made him great. Was he played with a huge chip on his shoulder, and whether it was like printing off tweets or screenshots, hanging them up in his locker, like whatever gets you going, that's what gets you going. And for Shaq, it was the doubters and trying to prove people wrong, and he did over and over in the NFL.
Well, let's get this Friday going a bit more with, of course, your Matt Taylor's Tidbits.
Let's dive into the nitty-gritty.
I never knew that.
Grab a seat and take notes.
As if.
There's storylines all over the upcoming game.
You serious, Clark? Say what?
It's time for Taylor's Tidbits.
All right, guys, I got three good ones. And I think the first one is it's league-wide. It's all around the NFL, because I want to talk about how these kickoffs are affecting things so far as it relates to scoring, because field position in the NFL is obviously way up. Dynamic kickoffs are being returned 80% of the time so far this season. But with that, you've got less distance to travel to the end zone after a kickoff. So with that, NFL teams so far are averaging just over 320 total yards per game league-wide in 2025. That is the fewest yards average in the NFL for a season since 2006, or at least it would be since 2006. So despite the overall yardage being down, scoring, as you can imagine, is way up. So through 4 games in the NFL, or 4 weeks, I should say, teams are averaging 23.3 points per game league-wide. That's the highest scoring average in the NFL since 2020, and the 4th highest scoring average in a single season all time. And I think it's only going to go up from here. And teams are also punting way less so far this season. This season, we're on pace to have the fewest punts per game in any season since 1939 when punts were first tracked. Teams are on pace to punt only about 3.5 times per game, and the Colts are a prime example of that, right? They've punted 5 times total for the season. That is the fewest in the NFL so far this year. It's also tied for the second fewest through 4 games of the season in the Super Bowl era. And field position in this game for the Colts and Raiders is going to be really important. Hopefully the Colts can take advantage here. The Raiders ranked 28th in punt return average allowed at 18.8, and they are 30th in kickoff return average allowed at 28.7. So Anthony Gould could have a big game coming up on Sunday for the Colts. Now I want to talk about tight end matchups in this game. We got Brock Bowers, we got Tyler Warren, 2 of the great, collegiate tight ends. They're doing their thing in the NFL. Currently, Warren leads the NFL in receiving yards among tight ends. Bowers is 3rd. And last year, Bowers broke the all-time NFL rookie record for catches with 112, which paced all tight ends in the NFL last season too, by the way. And so far this year, Tyler Warren has the most receiving yards by any tight end through their first 4 games in NFL history. And also get this, fellas, he has the most receiving yards through 4 games by any Colt. Doesn't matter position, tight end, wide receiver, has the most receiving yards by any Colt ever through their first 4 games of the season. Now, lastly, I want to talk about Ashton Jeanty, all right, the running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. Last week he had a $138 and led the team, had his best game of his young career. But you guys understand this whole concept of the Michael Myers stance? Have you heard about this?
Yeah. Please elaborate, but yes, this is fascinating.
Okay, so Ashton Jeanty, and I'm playing catch-up on this because I didn't watch a whole lot of Boise State last year. He has this upright position in the backfield pre-snap. Most running backs will stand behind the quarterback in like an athletic stance, have their knees bent or like their hands or their palms on their knee boards. But Ashton Jeanty just stands upright, almost like he's like chilling in a nightclub in the corner.
He looks like me in a Bloomington bar in college.
And so people have compared that to Michael Myers in terms of the upright posture. Like, it's kind of weird and creepy that we're comparing this posture to a serial killer, but that's what he's done. So in the first 3 games of the season, the first 3 games of the season, he did not use the Michael Myers posture. I think Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator, is trying to coach that out of him, and had decent success with it. Averaged 3.1 yards per carry. But last week he went back to the Myers upright stance, and he averaged 6.6 yards per carry, and he had 5 carries over 10 yards. And so he's a very physical runner. Whatever you want to call it, Mike Myers or no Mike Myers, the guy can run over you, and he's got tons of yards after contact. 89% of his season total rushing is yards after contact. So I don't know if that's just, him being a physical runner or the offensive line not doing a good job to have some running lanes for him to run through at the line of scrimmage. But you add all of that up, and he is a brute force and a bulldozer running the football. But big this week, they don't have their starting left tackle to open up lanes in the running game. Colton Miller's on IR with a high ankle sprain. So let's see if the Colts can do a good job of stopping the run with Jeanty at the line of scrimmage and also getting some pass rush on Geno Smith.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit earlier, Matt. I think it's vital for several reasons, but if the Colts can play from ahead, one, you can take advantage of, like you said, backup left tackle after Latu. Latu, I thought, had a really productive game last week against the Rams. And then 2, maybe you get away from the Jeanty focus in the second half. I mean, that broken tackle stat is a wild one. And in the third and fourth quarter, we've seen it firsthand what Jonathan Taylor can do to opponents. You don't want to have to tackle Jeanty too many times there in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Jeanty, to your point, has the second most broken tackles in the NFL so far this year. You don't want to get him going downhill. He's, I'm sure, just like Jonathan Taylor, where he just gets better as the game goes along. But that's what the Colts have been able to do is they haven't seen the high volume of the rushing attack from the opposition this year like they did last year because they're better on first and second down, yes, but they're also doing a good job offensively of getting off the fast starts and playing from ahead, getting the lead, which is forcing the other offense to throw the ball to get back into the game. So the yards per carry numbers you want those to go down, but the overall volume and the rushing total allowed by the Colts is very respectable. But I think it's because they're playing complementary football on the other side on offense.
Matt Taylor, you are the best. Are we going to see Puddles the Duck in the press box on Sunday at all?
Well, I don't know how that bet went between DeForest Buckner and the great Matt Conti, the Colts PR wizard. The pride of Penn State had to pay up and lost that bet with DeForest Buckner and his Fighting Ducks from Oregon. So I don't know if that's just a one-time thing or if that – I can't imagine Matt Conti agreeing to wear that on game day in the press box, but we'll see. I mean, James, you had to wear your candy stripes for like 2 weeks, I thought, but that was extreme on your part. But good on you to pay up, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to own up to it. I talked a lot of trash for about a month there, and I figured about a week of punishment was fair. So seeing Conti have to eat some crow after I did the same the week before, I felt no sympathy for that man. I thought he should have had frankly, I thought he should have stayed a little bit longer on the stage, but it was pretty funny trying to ask DeForest Buckner serious questions yesterday while Conti is standing there in a duck suit. So I can understand why he kind of stood off to the side after a while.
I also feel that I would make a pretty decent mascot. Like, I don't have the athleticism that Blue has, but I feel like I have I would like to think I have natural good mascot instincts on how to play it up to the crowd and how to be funny. And I'm not going to do cartwheels and I'm not going to throw a football from the 400 level into a plastic tube like Blue. But I mean, I feel like I could get a couple chuckles here and there. Like if Blue was sick for a school show and I had to fill in, I feel like I could get through it for 2 hours.
I could see that happen.
Plus, I would agree with that.
Respect.
Plus, you get to throw cream pies into the faces of your coworkers every week, as near as I can tell.
That's it right there.
Don't tell that to Trey Mock, though, Matt Taylor. You might have a knock on your office door here pretty soon.
Well, I preface with like he's got the athleticism and just his drive and creativity has no bounds. I mean, he dominates social media. So,
all right, buddy.
I can barely turn my Instagram account on.
Go get Spotify. Mark is urging you.
I'm telling you, I need all the help I can get, boys.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you as always. Great stuff.
All right, guys. Have a good weekend.
You bet. Taylor's Tidbits, always good. Anything stick out at you in particular there, Kevin?
I honestly think the NFL deserves some credit. I know it's taken a while, but I do feel like the kickoff has turned into a really entertaining play. Now, it takes a while to get used to all the rules and mechanisms that are within the play, but it's pretty impactful. For example, I think it was last week's game. Now, the Colts did a nice job, but the fact that the Rams kicker there, Cardi, late in the game, was able to kick one that I believe went into the landing zone and then into the end zone for a touchback, the Colts had to start that final drive from the 20. Mm-hmm. Now, if he just straight up would have kicked a touchback, that ball's coming all the way out to the 35 there. So think about it. It's a 15-yard difference for the kicker. Now, some people might say, screw kickers. They don't, they shouldn't have this much impact on the game, but, the play was turning into ceremonial. It was just turning into let's just boom the touchback and that's it. And now the play has some ramifications.
I like it, though, because to your point about kickers like not having that much impact on the game, we have watched teams go at it like gladiators, and then we all wait for a kicker to kick a ball through two metal poles that we put into
Mark
the sky.
Felt it last week.
Let's not get too high and mighty and act like, oh, that's not real football. Again, we wait for a guy who never plays to come on the field and decide legacies in this sport with their legs. So don't tell me about kickoffs.
That's why guys like Adam Vinatieri were so great.
I'm serious. Like, if he misses a couple of those kicks, is Tom Brady? No. Yeah. So, let's be honest here.
All right. No, I love the thing, too, about the National Football League. This always amazes me as time goes on, especially. There's no doubt that it's the greatest game objectively in North America, right? I mean, it just dominates Sunday. It dominates ratings. It dominates money. It dominates everything. People can't wait to give their money to the NFL. It's just there, right? But if you look at for a game that everybody loves and has grown up with, You ever seen the rule book for the National Football League and how many different little rules there are and this and that and the other thing? And you were talking about the kickoff. We haven't gotten completely used to that. There's a bunch of little rules involved in the kickoff now every week, too.
It's
crazy.
Must say I've never seen the NFL rule book, but I will take your word for it.
You know what?
There's a lot of it going on.
You could probably describe it like a Ellie De La Cruz bobblehead line.
No, I had to read the rule book when I was an intramural ref in college, and that for just the high school rules. We went by high school rules in college as well, and these guys were so ridiculous. Like, we had people who wanted continuation fouls in a men's league for college, and I'm like, you are not in the NBA. And they're like, that's the NBA. And I'm like, and you are not close to that. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, I had to read through that. Was the most boring, mundane, and even then they had a million different things you would never think of in certain situations. So I'm sure it is quite the task of being an NFL referee.
I did just find the NFL rulebook, and
not only was it long, but it was deep and wide.
That's
People
right.
excited.
There's a lot of chapters in this
Put
book.
that in your backpack right there, Mark.
I think if I put it in my backpack, I'd be like a turtle. I'd be on my back. I wouldn't be able to get up.
I think there's a lifted cut right there.
We please check it down.
Let's
Dear
do that.
Lord.
Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, we'll make it quick. We'll start with Major League Baseball. Mark, the Cubs beat the Padres 3-1. They're moving on.
Sing it, Kevin. This is your team now. Ride the lightning, man.
I think it's Mike. There's some issues going on over there.
Yeah. What's wrong? You're Ernie Banks. You're Mr. Cub yesterday. What's going on here? It backfired spectacularly. Is that what you're saying?
Got a couple other games, Jeff, to mention, right?
No. I think this the
Quite the pitching performance.
Yes, there
was.
in
the Bronx.
Cam, you want to try this one, James? Starting pitcher for the New York Yankees last night?
You got it.
There's a reason why I haven't said it all day. I'm not going there. I don't need the FCC coming after me.
Cam Schlittler is his name. 8 innings.
Are you
12
dumping these, Mark? Have you dumped that each hour?
I've just been told to send him to the FCC chair. That's all I've been told.
Schlittler, 8 innings pitched, 12 strikeouts, no walks, shutout baseball. First time we figured now since the 20s, Mark, that anybody's done that in the postseason?
It was something like that where the guy's name was Wynn WYNN or something like that, like something from the night before cars were made.
Was it early win?
Something, I don't know. I got to look it up. I saw it yesterday. It was dating back to pre-depression.
Well, you don't have to worry about depression yet for the Cubs. They did win yesterday. Detroit, a winner over the Cleveland Guardians, 6-3 as well. All three of them advance into the divisional rounds, and we will hear some of that baseball here over the weekend on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. NFL last night, Week 5 is underway. The San Francisco 49ers, I've listed all their skill players who were injured. I didn't even mention Ricky Pearsall the last hour. I mean, they're down to Kendrick Bourne, and he had a huge night last night. Mac Jones had a big night. It was offsetting, I should say, the 389 yards passing that Matthew Stafford had. And San Francisco stops a 4th and 1 in overtime, where the Rams are going for the win and not the tie. 26-23 was the win, Kevin, and those were cojones last night for Sean McVay.
Yeah, it didn't work out, and honestly, the Kyron Williams fumble in regulation was just a huge. I mean, if he doesn't fumble there, they probably win the game. Fumbled out in the goal, a hell of a play by Alfred Collins there to knock that ball out. So if you stayed up and were done with the Yankees, Red Sox, and flipped over, you were rewarded. Very entertaining game last night. Again, the Colts will face the 49ers coming up in December. That's a Monday night game, and Kyle Shanahan, he's one of the best coaches in the NFL, bar none. I mean, they are so patchwork right now, and to be in the position they are through the first 5 weeks, very impressive.
Doesn't hurt to have Christian McCaffrey back there to lean on.
Good football player.
Yeah, he's not bad. Colts, of course, play on Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock against the Raiders over at Lucas Oil Stadium. We'll have it here with our coverage beginning at 9 a.m. on the drive to kickoff, or the ride to kickoff. I think I've been saying the ride to kickoff with JMB coming your way at 9 o'clock from the Bullseye Event Center. And it's going to be a long, fun day of football. That might be, for us, because we're interested in it, one of the more attractive games because there just aren't a ton of them on Sunday, Kevin.
No, not a good slate. You will get one more London game. So the Vikings just ruled out a ton of guys. Really,
one of them being Ryan Kelly.
I was going to say, some thoughts with Ryan Kelly. Had another concussion for him, unfortunately. So they've done, Dublin last week, London this week. It'll be Dylan Gabriel, the rookie for the Browns, making his first NFL start there. So there's your coffee football in Week 5. And for AFC South purposes, Jags, Chiefs on Monday night, and then Texans, Ravens, and that is likely to be Cooper Rush. I won't even mention the Titans.
The fighting Todd Myers against the fighting James Boyds in college football tomorrow at high noon, Ross-Ade Stadium. Illinois taking on Purdue. You and Todd, have you guys spoken about this at all?
No, not really. But, yeah, Todd, expect a loss for your Boilermakers.
Talking smack right there. Notre Dame, a 3-touchdown favorite, Kevin. It looks like over Boise State. They'll be playing at home, 3:30 in the afternoon. This always worries you when a team is favored heavily, your team, right?
Well, I think Boise State deserves a ton of respect for who they've been, and seemingly they've walked into some environments, and nothing's been too nerve-wracking for them. So, yes, Notre Dame needs to continue to take care of business. They will rock the green jerseys tomorrow in South Bend.
All right.
The Bronco.
No, thank you, Mark.
I didn't even clarify.
Thanks for clarifying.
That's not a Colt. That's a Bronco. Yeah, where have you been with the animal sounds this week? That's
I got a million of them. We can
don't try.
Don't encourage me.
Yeah, I was going to say, geez, you know how the last 30 minutes will go.
Mm-hmm.
The Monday night game is the Kansas City Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars. You ready for that one?
Sure.
Oh, okay. Not right away. There we go. All right, high school football later on tonight. I know we're all looking forward to that. Operation Football. Dominic Miranda joined us earlier today, and some big games coming up tonight. Chief amongst them, though. How about Warren Central and Lawrence North, along with Cathedral at Center Grove? You excited about the Cathedral Center Grove game, Mr. Alum?
Let's go, Irish. Some other items of note: Pacers Fan Jam coming up Sunday at 11. Their first preseason game will be Tuesday. Rick Carlisle adjusted the training camp schedule so they can attend the funeral for Nancy Leonard tomorrow up in Carmel. And I know I mentioned this to Greg Rakestraw earlier, but the announcement, Butler will travel to take on North Carolina next year in college basketball, and then the Tar Heels will return the favor to Hinkle in 2027. So I love that. I think that is an awesome, awesome atmosphere inside of Hinkle Fieldhouse. It'll be a really cool game here coming up in a couple of years. So kudos to everybody that made that possible. Give me some more appointment non-conference football and basketball games, particularly on campus. So that'll be coming up in a few years.
All right, coming up in a moment. We know that it was a tough year for Caitlin Clark. Only played in 13 games. Had to watch the last part of the season in the postseason from the bench. But she spoke yesterday, and we know that we like Caitlin Clark. Well, guess what? She likes you too here in Indianapolis. We'll let her tell you all about it next. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Well, here you go. Taylor Swift today, high school football tonight, Purdue and Notre Dame tomorrow, each play different games, and then, of course, the Colts on Sunday. What more do you want, Mark Dykton? It's all right there.
Not
Cubs.
much better. I'm sure I'm going to be listening to that album on repeat all weekend long because my oldest is like waiting to listen to it after school.
All right. We've been talking about the Colts and A.D. Mitchell all week long. Anonymous, maybe you can tell me the name because he said he waited on hold for 45 minutes. We had Matt Taylor and a bunch of other things going on. Who was? Do you remember who it was? Maybe
Matt, I believe was his
Matt.
name.
But he just wanted to talk about the A.D. Mitchell situation. He says you guys mentioned how sometimes a punishment can cause you to lose some guys, and I think that's what you'd see with Mitchell. We already have seen how he distanced himself from the huddle, and you could see it was in his head after that play happened. I think this is a situation where instead of punishing him by sitting him, you actually look to get him that touchdown this week to show your confidence in him and get that memory out of his head. I agree with not being able to compare it and with the JT fumble, but it is apples to apples situation. Not really there. He says not apples to apples, but he actually thinks it would come down harder on a vet who should know better and drop the ball versus a young guy who's seen limited playing time. We're kind of all over the place. Kind of feels like more than anything, though, he just doesn't have the confidence of Shane Steichen to get the ball as much as anything, right?
I'll take this one. I don't care about any of that. If you get benched for making a mistake like that and then you withdraw more, that's on you. And you weren't meant to be a part of this football team. So I don't expect A.D. Mitchell to draw away or to pout his way through this. But if it hurts for a week, that is fine. And for the people who are saying like, oh my gosh, you would hurt the team without A.D. Mitchell, he barely played when all of your receivers were healthy anyway. So if there's ever an opportunity to kind of send a message or let them know that the standard that you were playing at before isn't right, it is now. And I'm not saying, again, if they do play him, I'm not advocating like, oh my God, sit him or else. But if they play him, fine. But if they don't, it is not the sky is falling and this kid will, oh my gosh, he'll be a shell of himself. He'll never trust his teammates again. What has he done to earn playing time? Let's talk about that. And again, if all this talent I keep hearing about with A.D. Mitchell, he has extreme talent. Who cares if you don't reach it, if you don't utilize it to the best of your ability? Talent and potential are backhanded compliments if you do not maximize them.
Yeah, I think that's really well said, James. And again, I to your point, for 1 week, like it's not the end of the world.
I'm not saying he's got to be gone forever.
Right.
Banish him. No.
And again, we'll see about the Michael Pittman Jr. injury situation, the hamstring. How does that impact your receiver availability, et cetera? It sounds like we've got a few more dominoes here, potentially late in the week from an injury report standpoint. I would add one more thing to this. Last year, we saw Jonathan Taylor after the Denver game go off for 200 yards that next week against the Titans. I did think it was interesting on Sunday when Mitchell dropped the ball in the goal line, James. I don't know if you had this thought. I was curious, would they come back to him right away? The next time he showed up in the box score after the drop on the goal line was the holding penalty. They did not target him, or obviously he didn't catch a ball. He caught one ball in that final drive, the final drive before Pittman, or the interception towards Michael Pittman Jr., but they had no, hey, let's go get him a target. Sometimes you see that with guys. Hey, this guy is struggling right now. Let's get him a touch. Let's get him back in the game. They did not do that at all for a quarter and a half, again, until the holding penalty. So just something I think worth pointing out.
Keep an eye on Sunday afternoon. Again, our coverage starts at 9 o'clock with JMV and rolls right through the game in the postgame with Greg Rakestraw. Matt Taylor has the play-by-play. It's all right here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Don't be shocked if a couple of Fever players, including Caitlin Clark, are there. She spoke with the media yesterday, talked about a lot of different things, and we'll hear about that next as we continue. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Taylor Swift, all morning long, featured by Mark Dykton on all the rejoins as she dropped an album early this morning at midnight, as a matter of fact, and getting a lot of love and hate on the text line today.
For the people
Mark.
that can't handle Taylor Swift, I'm like, it's 20 seconds. Relax. Calm down.
I feel like, honestly, that's the same exact response that you and others have given about her being on the TV screen.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not watching, I'm missing the game. No, you're not. They showed every single snap.
They can show a fat guy with his shirt off,
exactly,
chugging a beer, or they show Taylor Swift in a box for 10. Relax.
Well, when
down.
Jason Kelsey's there, you get both at the same time.
Hey, that's fine too.
Right. So that's what's going on. We'll talk about our Colts predictions coming up in a moment. But yesterday, the Fever had their exit interviews, and while a lot of the folks nationally were focused on what Caitlin Clark or others would say about the latest, I don't know, I would call it leadership crisis in the WNBA, James. Caitlin Clark was also asked about her future and not being a part of the rivaled or unrivaled again for the second season in a row and coming back off of injury. But really, she wanted to talk about just how much she's enjoyed being here in Indianapolis with these fans and this team and this place. I thought that was interesting.
This place is incredible, and I think you've heard so many people talk about it over the course of the last few weeks, whether it's the Colts, whether it's Pacers, whether it's been our players. It's just incredible. It's, in a way, it almost feels like a college, like a university, like all the teams are supporting each other, and like you don't get that in professional sports really. But like you have that here, and I think that just speaks, like, I always say, like, obviously I'm from Iowa, like, Indianapolis, I understand it's a big city, but it doesn't really feel that way to me. Like, it's a very close-knit group. Like, everybody supports one another, but then you have the professional sports teams, and that's what everybody's most passionate about here. And that's what I love about it. People really show up. A lot of these fans, like, these have been their teams since they've been 5 years old. This is all they've known. These are the only teams they've cheered for. And, to have this type of success across the board, obviously the Colts have had an amazing start to their season, and the Pacers run last year, and then everything we've been able to persevere and, reach the WNBA semifinals. Like, it's a really special time in this city, and, I can't imagine myself in a better place, and just really fortunate to have, made different friendships with different athletes across the city and just have the support from not only the city, but the state as a whole.
Kind of interesting to hear that, and it sounds like she's going to be here for the long haul, and obviously she signed up for a while with the WNBA. But it's nice to hear that from the people who didn't grow up here or haven't been here for a long, long time. I know, James, you've adopted this city in the last several years. Kevin, of course, you grew up here. We moved here 12 years ago, 13 years ago almost now, and just fell in love with this place. And Mark, I know you've been here from Chicago, and the same thing. You get here and you're like, man, this is just a great place, especially if you love sports. I'm not going to go on that rant again today, but it's an unbelievable place to be. It really is.
One thing I really appreciate about Caitlin Clark is how thoughtful she is with her answers. She gets.
What's crazy? Her and Tyrese. How crazy is that? They're both best players.
I know it's funny because Tyrese had a very similar answer.
Yes,
about
they're
that
the same, like in that regard.
Media
But
Day.
Continue.
I mean, think about how many times Caitlin. And I felt this way when we had her on the show last year. We did the interview in person with her, and I remember kind of like getting up from the table after the interview was over. I'm like, here she was. I think she had just come from an ESPYs film, and then was going to a Nike interview next or a Nike meeting next. And I'm like, she treated our lowly show like it was something major. And think about
we are kind of major now. We had some camera crew in here earlier, but continue.
Like all of just the genuine nature to her answers on a variety of topics. And I felt that way watching her entire press conference yesterday. Not just the Indianapolis question that, that's a softball question and she knocks it out of the park. I thought her WNBA leadership answers were, very thoughtful as well. So it'll be quite the offseason for her. Obviously, she's got to get healthy. She wants to get back to playing, which she hasn't done in a while. It sounds like some USA basketball stuff could be in line for her later in the offseason. And then she was adamant about, it's the most important moment in the WNBA history. And she also is very bullish on wanting to still be a huge driver in the league's success. And 5, 10, 15-year-olds, she wants them to be watching the WNBA, and she wants to be part of that growth. And I would think if you're Kathy Engelbert, you need to get your head out of your you-know-what, reach out to her, and make sure she's a big part of whatever direction this looks like moving forward, if Kathy Englebert's still going to be around.
I was going to say, Engelbert obviously was a big part of getting all these brand new TV contracts. I think anybody will acknowledge that. But the players past that, they don't feel like she has their back. They don't feel like she's all that interested in them as individuals, that she thinks that the league, and in some cases players have said even she thinks that the league and she are bigger than any of the individual players. And right now, as most people have pointed out, it's people like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Nafisa Collier and from the Aces, Asia Wilson, who we just saw this week. Their amazing star power just bringing this league up, along with many other players right now, too.
Absolutely. And the brightest star when it comes to the fanfare and excitement and hype, it's Caitlin Clark. She is Tiger Woods. She is Serena Williams. She is Michael Jordan when it comes to the growth of women's basketball. So I'm very interested to see, after we get through the finals, what the CBA, negotiations, all that looks like, because it will be an eventful summer off the court for the WNBA for sure.
I think this goes without saying, but Amber Cox, Fever GM, yesterday did mention number one priority of the offseason, keep Kelsey Mitchell in a Fever uniform. So I think it's a no-brainer, but to James's point, what does this all look like once the CBA is done? The coring of players, the franchise tagging, to put it in NFL terms, does sound like that will be a huge, huge focus, and we'll see exactly what the Fever look like coming up next year and what the W looks like coming up next year.
All right, let's start talking about Sunday's game with the Raiders. The Colts have been installed at this point in time as 6.5-point favorites. How do you think this one's going to play out, Kevin Bowen?
Well, injury report again today is going to be big for both teams. We'll see where Michael Pittman Jr. is at. We'll see where Brock Bowers is at. We'll see where Max Crosby is out. Touchdown favorite, like you said, Jeff. I'll go Colts 30-20. I think Latu feast on that backup left tackle. Gets his first strip sack with a fumble recovery in the NFL. Again, big key for me is keeping Ashton Genty out of the game in the second half. Get a lead, make sure Genty and the Raiders can't stay on schedule, force Geno Smith into some of those turnover situations. I'll say 30-20 Colts.
All right, and James Boyd?
Yeah, I'm going with the Colts as well. Shout out to my dad who's a Raiders fan. Brother, I think you're taking an L this weekend. So
take that, Jesse Boyd.
Yeah, take that, Jesse Boyd. I think the Colts win 31-23. I think it'll be a closer game, at least cosmetically towards the end, but I do think they'll hang on, get back in the win column, and win in fairly comfortable fashion.
I've never met the man, but I love Jesse Boyd, what I know of him so far, and I want him to be happy most of the time, but not this week. I think it's going to be 27-19. I think that when the Raiders do score, it'll be a lot of field goals.
Okay.
What it feels like to me. So 27-19, that'll give them the cover as well. And I was talking to Mark about this during one of the breaks. I could even go off. Very rare for me. I could even be looking at a 14 parlay if I include the Colts in this.
You could do that,
man.
Yeah.
So, what are you thinking?
Kevin and I are on very similar wavelengths. Like the Colts winning 30-21. Geno Smith, he threw like 3 interceptions against the Bears, and he wasn't under duress at that point. He was just throwing them.
That's
to them.
with his left tackle.
I'm gonna, if I could even make, I wish I could make a bet on this. I'm gonna say Cam Bynum over half an interception. I think he's gonna get a pick against Geno Smith this weekend, and the Colts roll, and then take on the Cardinals.
That means a cool celebration, right?
Yeah. I would like to see it. So Cam Bynum get an interception, Colts roll.
We're due for one of those.
All right. TV weekend, Mark, I know where you're going to be spending your time outside the Colts. You're going to be watching some baseball, I think.
That's a good opportunity, too. Yeah, probably.
Kevin?
By the way, quick shout-out if you're in the Butler, Tarkington, South Broad Ripple neighborhood. We got a neighborhood Oktoberfest at Immaculate Heart of Mary coming up, 57th and Central this weekend. Great time, beer, fun music, great for the kids as well. So check that out, 57th and Central.
That might be something to do. You just alerted me there.
I'll be there with the fam.
And the Daisy Dip.
Very quickly, 5 seconds or less. What do you got, James?
High school football tonight. I'll probably hit one of these games. I'll go visit Ben Davis. I haven't been there in a while.
All right, Jake.